Looks like we got a raging crowd here tonight, folks. We're ready. We hope there's lots of public comment. If there is, don't be bashful. Come on up. Give your slip to Ms. Ornelas, and we're very happy to have you. We are being live streamed on Ukiah Unified's YouTube channel, and the link is accessible on our website, www.uust.net. Okay, I think that's all we have to say about our welcoming. And since I was just teasing our student advisor, perhaps she could lead us in our flag salute. Now, Superintendent Cubitt, could you please lead the report out from closed session?
Yes, regarding item B1, it was moved by Trustee Nelson, seconded by Trustee Van Sant to adopt resolution number 19 of non-reelection of probationary certificated employees and authorize the district superintendent or her designee to notify the employees listed on attachment I that they will not be reelected for the 2021 school year. In closed session, the board took action to non-reelect 7 full-time equivalent certificated employees. The vote was 7-0 via roll call. Also on item B1, pursuant to Education Code Section 44-954, subdivisions A and B, during closed session, the board acted to authorize the district superintendent or designee to notify 1 temporary certificated employee that he or she will not be reemployed for the 2021 school year. That was approved roll call vote, 7-0. Additionally, on item B7, the board took action to approve a certificated request for a leave of absence for .4 FTE. It was moved by Fernandez, seconded by Van Sant, and approved 7-0 via roll call vote. And an additional request of a certificated employee for a leave. It was moved by Nelson and seconded by Barrett to deny a leave request of a certificated employee, and that motion was approved by 7-0 roll call vote. On item B8, it was moved by Fernandez, seconded by Van Sant, to approve a leave of absence request for a classified employee, and that was a 7-0 roll call vote as well. And I think that is it.
Thank you very much. Now, we would like to hear public comment for agenda items, for items not on the agenda. Excellent.
We have one.
Okay. Excellent. Ms. Lorena Evans, please come forward.
Hello. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your service.
Lorena, you're going to go to the podium there with the mic because we're live streaming, and the mic will be the only thing that will pick it up.
Oh, boy. Okay. How do you know this was this formal? Well, anyway,
I know.
good afternoon.
Sorry.
Just here to, my first time, so I want to just kind of observe. And my comment actually tonight is just in regards of the sugar amounts and the lunch for our students. And I am concerned, I think as a parent, I would be concerned of the chocolate milk is an everyday thing now. Then they get slushies, which are like 7 cubes of sugar each. And then gummy bears, I don't know if those are gone. But anyways, there's nice new improvements in the food. But at the same time, the sugar is the one thing that I'm just like, wow. Kindergartners eating that amount of sugar, it's, to me, not healthy at all. And also the behavioral and everything, but also the waste, because, so they spend so much time eating this slushy that is massive, that by the time they're done with that, they're full, the rest of the food goes to waste, and that's heartbreaking, actually. And just to see that they eat 3 little pieces of whatever, a little piece of broccoli, a carrot, and then the rest just goes in the trash. And while the new person, this has nothing to do with, her personally, I think she's done amazing new improvements on many things. I believe that needs to be considered, on my point of view. I'm talking to parents that showed up to the cafeteria many times. We've heard some concerns. I'm sure you guys have heard something, maybe via principals. But I cover a couple duties, 2 days a week, and I see it firsthand. I see the waste, I see the amount of sugar kids are consuming, and while middle schoolers or 5th graders or other groups of people, ages, are gonna deal with it better, the little ones I think it's just not healthy at all, and it's a concerning thing for me personally. So that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you. Duly noted. Too much sugar and too much waste. And I am sure someone will be back in touch to see whatever ideas you might have to.
I do
resolve
really
it.
appreciate that the little straws are gone. And we've definitely made some amazing improvements,
Good.
but there's more room for getting better service
Right.
for our kids, and food. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you.
All right, without any other comments then, not on the agenda, we will move forward to our employee organization brief reports. No, we want to approve the agenda. Okay. C4, is there a motion to approve the agenda removing H7 for separate consideration?
I think
And perhaps removing something else from trustee Vincent?
I did want to, I can't even remember why, but I'll remember by the time the item is called. I did want to, H20 on the consent item I did want to talk about.
So we would be considering H20 and H7 separately?
Yes.
Perfect. Is there a motion to that end?
I so move.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now we get to go to employee organizational reports. And it looks like we don't have our usual guests.
Yes, our UTA representative tonight will be myself, Becky Burford. I'm the UTA Vice President, and I'm standing in for our President, Terry DeSelke, tonight. So good to see you all. It's always great to get an opportunity to hear what's going on in the district and to speak to all of you. So we wanted to share some of the news that's been going on in our district and in our membership. So UTA has started our election process. We'll be running our elections for the executive board during the month of April and announcing those in May. May 13th in 2020 will be the Day of the Teacher, and that's going to be, the theme this year will be Inspiring Generations, One Student at a Time. So we thought that was a perfect theme for this year with our motto of the students are the center of all that we do. So UTA members recently decided to honor Dr. Seuss's birthday on March 2nd by giving out books to every second grader in our district. We owe a special thanks to the child development students at the Ukiah High School for participating in this process. They not only visited 2 sites, but they went to a number of different classrooms and they spent time reading books with students and delivering these books as well. So that was organized from the high school's end by Katrina Dursteller, which we appreciated very much. We'd like to offer a special thank you to Black Oak Coffee. Recently, they offered Ukiah Unified School District teachers a free coffee. For the entire week, you could just stop by and pick up a coffee. So what a beautiful gift that they had for our teachers, and we appreciate that. We're extremely thankful at the work that our teachers are putting in right now with regards to some of the community challenges. So they are demonstrating extra caution, extra care, consideration, and flexibility. Our members are showing up during this time with extra wipes, extra sanitizer, and extra time, making sure that they are keeping things as clean as possible and supporting the custodial staff. They're also keeping up on communications that the district sends out, so trying to be quick about making sure that that communication gets to everyone as quickly as possible. And they're creating plans for various scenarios that could include remote learning. And they're also trying to be innovative about how they're going to maintain rigor and high-quality instruction during this time. And being at an elementary site, I also see teachers every day finding ways to calm young students who are hearing bits and pieces of things that they're not really sure how to give weight to. So things are going very smoothly, I think, in the midst of all of these questions that we're sort of dealing with. So in the meantime, we're all getting ready for end of the year testing. The language testing, the state testing, the AP testing, so many good things that are happening at the end of this year. So we're trying to march forward with business as usual, getting students ready, preparing them for these steps so that they can go on with their educational goals. And we'd also like to know, or like the board to know, that we've asked our members to look very closely at the strategic plan and give feedback. Superintendent Kubin has given out lots of information to our members and made it very clear that this is the time to offer some feedback. She'll be visiting us in just a few weeks to collect some of that feedback firsthand. And we really appreciate the fact that this year the process itself included a lot more teachers. I suspect it also included more classified employees. And in general, it was a process that managed to collect a lot of voices and to come to a pretty big solution. So coming up with this plan, it'll be an exciting time to get this going in play for next year. Lastly, we wanted to talk about the Schools and Communities First initiative. It's tallying up the petition signatures that have been received, and to get this initiative on the November ballot, UTA is asking Ukiah Unified School District Board to create a proclamation in favor of the initiative, which, when passed, will bring over $4 million new to our district. So we've been working hard to get these funds into our school district, and we're hoping that you'll join us in that endeavor and finding a way to solve some of the fiscal problems with aging sites and keeping things up and going. So that's our report for tonight, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay. And we don't have our CSBA rep tonight? Oh. Okay. Then we'll move on to C7, acceptance of donations. There are 2 donations, one from Life Touch to Frank Zeke Elementary, and one from Janet Spica to the Classroom Supplies for Nokomis Elementary School. Is there a motion?
So moved with gratitude.
Excellent.
I second.
And a second, perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, we have our leadership team report.
Welcome, Christy,
Oh,
from
Good
Ukiah
evening.
Adult School.
Yes, is this on? Yeah, okay. Well, good evening. It's always a pleasure and my honor to have some of your time and your ears to share out some of the exciting things happening at Ukiah Adult School. First, I'd like to just give you a little snapshot, if you will, of our enrollment. Our current enrollment, about 11, 12 days old now, but not far off. In our jail system, we have 158 students enrolled. They're working on their high school diploma, high school equivalency, basic literacy, and independent study. In that setting, we have found a significant increase in the independent study participation, and most of the graduates so far this year are coming out of that setting, so it's working well. Our Round Valley partnership continues to do well. We have 14 students enrolled there working on their diploma. At our main campus on Bush Street, we have 256 students enrolled in the various classes of our high school diploma and equivalency, citizenship, ESL, beginning computers, and our vocational nursing. And with our partner site, UVA and Mayakama, we have 106 students enrolled, and those students work on career development, life skills, and job placements. So our total enrollment to date, 534 students. So with that snapshot, I'd like to then share with you some of our celebrations and new offerings, things we're doing this year at Ukiah Adult School. We started childcare at night at the beginning of the year, got off to a slow start, but like a lot of things, momentum and promotion and awareness, we now have regular students, children coming with our students for our night classes in diploma and ESL. So we'll look forward to continuing that, and we've been able to fund that through some of our CalWorks monies that we get. We added an additional ESL night class. We had such a booming enrollment with the one class we had, and this is in collaboration with Mendocino College, so we added a second section of night class, second semester, and both of them are full and well attended. And that's the picture on the bottom left, that class. We are going to a training tomorrow to learn a new system called Community Pro Suites in our Adult Ed Consortium for Lake and Mendocino County. We are going to utilize an integrated case management system called Community Pro Suites. This system will hopefully enable us to more effectively refer our students to all the different support services in our community, as well as those partner agencies referring their clients to us. We find that we lose a lot of people in not being able to do an effective warm handoff, as we call it. So this system we will all use in Lake and Mendocino County, all the adult ed agencies, the college, as well as partner agencies like the Department of Rehab, the Workforce Development Board, who the contractor for that is MPIC, and Veterans Affairs, other partner agencies we'll bring on board. But we're going to learn tomorrow how to use the system, and we hope to improve the effectiveness of our referrals to support our students. Our citizenship class has experienced a wonderful increase in enrollment the last session. 18 students are in that class. So as we ebb and flow, you know, the participation rate in that class, we find when the community brings in more people, the word of mouth tends to be the most positive way for that class to grow. So we were excited to see our recent class of 18, and that's the top left picture on the screen. In our jail program, we have recently been able to implement online assessments. We've been doing paper, pencil, formative assessments with them the last few years, and so we're excited to get some online assessments going. The county has secured and implemented technology in the classroom, and it's a wonderful new addition. And those inmates are also able to work with Mendocino College for online classes through that same technology. So we hope to add the online piece for our students there as well with Cyber High and OdysseyWare. We started soft skills employability workshops this year. I left you all a flyer on your table there. One struggle we're having with these workshops is participation. Through our advertising and promotion and awareness, we're still struggling to find the right participants. Our partner in this adventure is, again, MPIC through the Workforce Development Board activities, and they do a lot of outreach to employers, and we, of course, are promoting it to students. So we hope to continue this next year and would like to see more people participating, so we'll be considering when we offer it, how we offer it, you know, time of day, different days. So if you have any thoughts or ideas, we'll welcome that for that success of that workshop. And then lastly, our vocational nursing class, if you hadn't heard, yay, they started in January. We have 33 students. The staff is doing a phenomenal job of bringing them on board, and they have just started their clinicals. So the picture on the bottom right is a student who, kind of serendipitous in this time frame we're going through, they learned how to properly do a fit mass test to a procedure they have to do in the healthcare setting, and they learned that last week prior to their starting their clinical assignments at the hospitals. So, you can see they're having a lot of fun with that. Here's some more pictures of our nursing class. They finished their skilled nursing rotation about 2 weeks ago. They were at these 3 facilities throughout our 2 counties, and they're there with their instructors. A lot of great energy in this class, demographically widespread ages as well as ethnicities, male and female, so it's a pretty dynamic class, and we're having fun with them. These pictures are some of our high school diploma graduates so far this year. I wanted to show you this because it's something fun we get to do when our graduates finish all different times of the year. Sometimes they indicate they don't think they can come to the ceremony in May, they may be gone or whatnot. So we do a little pomp and circumstance on site with them. Imagine me in the background singing the tune, and they allow us to take the picture of them in this way, as you see here. But it's just a little way that helps all of us celebrate their success. And then the bottom picture, of course, is last May's ceremony with some of the students Miss West worked with, and it's just a cute picture showing the students, and you can tell how much they are endearing towards their teacher there in that picture. These pictures are from students that have finished up in the correctional facility, and they have this really phenomenal signature board, the Wall of Fame they call it. As they graduate in that setting, they sign the board, they take their pictures, and then upon release they get to take the pictures with them. So looking into the future for the adult school, we're always looking ahead as well, and some of the things we're working on to implement in the next few years. First and foremost, we need to continue, and we always work on building our community awareness. We've participated in the Pumpkin Fest the last 2 years and found this is our open house. It works out perfectly for us to connect with the community. It's always amazing how many people we talk to in that event that didn't even know we were there or what we offered. So we think of that as our open house now, and we'll look forward to continuing that. The Census 2020 is coming up, as you may know, and we will have an open computer lab for that event on site, working with the Mendocino County Counts Committee to build the awareness of the fact that the public can come use the open computer lab to complete that process if they wish to. And our teachers are doing in-class lessons the next few weeks to try to build awareness with our students of the importance of course, participating in that. Our current membership and partnership in the Mendocino Lake Adult and Career Education Consortium involves we have a lot of projects going on in that group, but 2 focused projects that we're really excited about is the construction pathway. We've been working on developing curriculum for a non-credit construction pathway for adults that the Mendocino College would offer, and our collaboration with them in developing the curriculum and talking about the logistics and the facilities, and working with Eric Crawford at Ukiah Unified on how he ran the program and tried to mirror a lot of those components. Mendocino College, if you didn't hear, had recently received a grant to build and implement a construction program. So we're now at the point where we feel confident we can move forward with implementing this pathway. And I envision Ukiah Adult School being a facility mostly for this program, offering a classroom space, and of course, part of the promotion and awareness of the program, and encouraging our students to participate as a viable next step after their diploma. We are also working on Microsoft Office workshops. We found in a lot of our looking at data and asking questions and surveys that there's a big need in the employment setting for students with the intermediate kinds of computer skills, software specific to Microsoft Office. Mendocino College has 1 class, 4 credit, that's all semester, and it's a pretty intense class that covers all these softwares. So we're looking at we are developing curriculum at this time to offer 2-day kind of workshops that would cover all the components of the Word software and then the Excel and then the PowerPoint, all as separate entities. And the idea that a student could take these workshops on site with us over the course of maybe 2 Saturdays, earn a certificate of completion, and with that, they're more employable and they have built skills that can take them forward. Mendocino College would offer them officially as non-credit, and again, we'd partner with facility and co-enrollment, if you will, of the students that participate. Our third item, we recently entered into a shared services agreement with Rural Community Housing Development Corporation. They are about to break ground on a new apartment complex on Brush Street, and part of their funding and grant sources that they received to build this apartment complex had to do with partnership with an adult ed entity for offering educational services, because this complex will include a community commons center. So we entered into an agreement to offer those kinds of workshops when and if the facility is fully built and functional, and the projection of that would be in the school year 21-22. So we're excited about that as something coming in the future to offer ESL, maybe some more of those soft skills workshop, but whatever the community members of that area are interested in, we hope to offer in the future. And then lastly, we are hoping to duplicate a really exciting program Anderson Valley Adult School is currently offering, and that's an ESL intermediate class that is integrated with curriculum on home health aid. And through a lot of our labor markets statistics we've looked at the last few years, it is really interesting to know that the largest growth area in one specific job is the personal care aide, projected for the next 5 to 10 years. And so they implemented this course as a pilot last year, and it's been very successful for them. So we hope to duplicate that and offer it in next school year as part of our ESL offerings. And with that, students would leave the course with certification in first aid and CPR and some of the basic content certifications of personal care or home health aid. So those are our exciting things to share. I thank you for your attention tonight. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes. Trustee Arkin.
I have a couple of things. One of them, I just wondered, do you have, all of your ESL classes just in the evening?
No, we have mornings and evenings, 4 days a week.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to do it. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I just think it's a wonderful job what you've done for our
Thank you.
adult school. It's just amazing, all the different things.
We're having a lot of
that you
fun.
keep bringing in
Thank you.
and working with, and I thank you so much.
Welcome. It is my pleasure.
Trustee Fernandez.
I agree with B. It's a lot of really, really wonderful things. And I wanted to say, I can't remember when it was, when some of us went to the jail, and you had just started that board for the signatures, and you
Yeah.
had like 2 signatures
Oh,
on there.
yeah.
And
to see
now
how
to look
full
at
it
it and
is.
see all
Yeah.
those signatures,
Yeah.
because you just started that, to see how far you've come so
Yeah.
quickly, because I think that was last year.
I think it was just last year.
Yeah,
Just
last
year?
spring, yeah.
It's really wonderful, so
Yeah.
thank you for all those innovative programs and all
Bet.
that.
I'll definitely share that with the teacher. She'll love to hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was, I recognized it immediately. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Trustee Diaz.
I just wanted to share with you that I went to the adult school here in Ukiah. Basically, I took ESL classes and my GED. I got it there with Mr. Clint Kelly. And I'm very glad to see all of the offerings that you have.
Well, now
Thank you
that
for
I've
that
found
work.
you, we might have to have you come talk to our
Exactly.
students.
You've got an alumni now. You betcha.
I'll be happy to come over and
Excellent.
share my
Okay.
experience.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for sharing that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Trustee Nelson.
There's a really interesting podcast called Ear Hustle that
Oh.
is about prison system and specifically at San Quentin. The having something for that population to do seems like it's really positive, especially education.
Absolutely.
So the success of this it's great for our community. I'm really excited about that. And then the other question, well, one of the other questions I had is, when do you think your Microsoft Office program is going to be up and running?
So let's see, spring of 2021 is our target for the first offering, which would be Word, because that's the first one we've been developing, and the other ones hopefully will follow. They're going through the community college curriculum approval process. So that's about a 2-year process, and we started about a year ago, so.
Okay,
Oh, my
I'm really
goodness.
excited about that. I have
We'll
a
let
few
you know.
candidates for you.
Yeah.
And Microsoft Office. The other one I wanted to highlight, just we got to take a tour of your facility. The soft skills workshop was really interesting, and so I wanted to make sure that we spoke to the public about it while we have this opportunity. There are lots of skills that you guys are tackling, self-awareness, digital fluency, communication, entrepreneurial mindset. Anyways, there are lots of different programs that you guys are tackling. What you shared with us is that the classes, the concept is they start at 4 and they end at 6.
Yes.
And the idea was to have businesses support their employees to come to those classes by paying that first hour, perhaps the first 2 hours. And so anyways, it seems like a really neat program that I'm hoping that we can all get word out about to help increase our working population's
Exactly.
awesomeness.
Thanks. And I would just add that the workshops are set up so that it's a 1 week at a time focus. So if somebody comes on Tuesday for the first workshop, they finish the curriculum content on Thursday, they're done, they earn the certificate or the badge of that content area that you mentioned. So it's not like you have to make a big commitment, but the idea of 1 week at a time, come to the one that might interest you. And yeah, if an employer could support someone that maybe works till 5, because we start them at 4, we thought there might be some transitional support there. So thank you for sharing more on that.
Thank you for doing all the hard work.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Trustee Barrett?
No, we're not going to let you sit down yet.
Sorry. I can't tell where the markers are and who's what.
I just wanted to say
Thank you.
thank you for coming and sharing with us, and I'm looking forward to coming to your graduation after I attended last year.
Yes.
It was one of the most inspirational
Oh,
events
wonderful.
I've attended in this district.
Thank you.
So I just want to say I'm
Good.
looking forward to
We'll look forward to having you, and we're already starting to talk to the students to try and top last year. We got to get some more inspiring students to speak, so we're working on it. Thanks.
Trustee Van Sant?
I just had a question about the jail program. I somehow missed that it was happening, so I feel a little remiss in that. Do you physically have a teacher that's there? Is that how it works?
Yes, we have a teacher who works 30 hours a week, blended funding for her time. She was a 15-hour-a-week program a few years ago, and we were able to increase the time there and the services through the WIOA grant that we secured 3 years ago. And then with that, she was able to begin the independent study part of our services for the inmates that can't go out of their cells for different reasons. She is able to meet with them once a week, one-on-one, and bring them work and exchange work and
So
teach
it's all
them.
done in a paper type of thing?
It's
'Cause it has to
mostly
be
paper, other than these new developments with the computers, we're hoping to build on the online. But yeah, then there's a classroom in there with lots of resources, and we used to just have high school equivalency. It was the main service we offered there, and we've grown it into the high school diploma for credit offering and some basic skills literacy, and then the independent study. And she has a para now, also at 15 hours a week, because with a second adult in the setting, she's able to bring more students to the classroom, which is awesome.
And it's paid through the WIOA?
The California Adult Ed program is most of our funding, adult ed funding, and then the WIOA supplements so that we were able to add on additional services.
That's awesome. It's wonderful
Yes.
to see that.
Thank you.
Do you do you by any chance have a report in which you talk about, how much you're investing and what your outcomes are? Because I think that one of the struggles would be, there's so many small groups, and there's not infinite resources. So
Yes.
do you do some
We do,
analysis?
through our consortium participation, a membership, we have an annual review process that we do at one of our regular meetings. So I could easily provide that information in whatever means you
That would be great.
request. And, yeah, it breaks
Yeah.
down what we're spending and the different programs. And, excuse me, we're measured at this point from the state on specific outcome measures for adult ed having to do with persistent rates and educational functioning levels, so we're expected to help the student increase their levels through these assessments we give, and then, of course, graduation rates and things. So, yeah, I could easily provide you with that.
Yeah, just get in the habit of sending it whenever it comes out, once a year or whatever, because it's another opportunity to get the topic
We'll
in
do
the front
that.
of our minds.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to see in the strategic plan that you want to highlight for us?
Oh, you sure you want to ask that?
I only said one thing.
I would just say a conversation I had, I think a week ago with Beth Kirkley about the family engagement piece, the parenting, helping parents be a part of educating their students for child success, we call it. It is one of the objectives of adult ed program. And whether the funding that is targeted for that in the plan can be blended and we can collaborate more with some of the adult ed funding to offer it in some way that might make it more successful, because I think it's a piece that through some attempts we've tried and maybe it hasn't been as well attended, but what we could look at that and maybe how could we work together to maybe bring that piece more fluid and build on participation.
And who are the parents and who are the children?
So K-12 students, there's a metric in adult ed called, I'm going to say it right, parents helping children with their school success. So the idea, you have a workshop for a parent to come to, and you teach the parent how to do the math. You teach them some basic strategies on how to support their child at home in doing their math homework. Or you have a class on some basic writing skills, and you teach the parent how to help your student write a really good essay, or how to write a really good book report. So, and you teach the parents those skills so that when they're at home with their students, they can help their students do better in school and improve their success.
Okay, I'm just confused because these are adults, and so do they have babies?
A lot of
Is
our
that what
students
we're
have
talking about?
K-12, have students in our school. Yeah, have children in our schools, yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about treating the adult school students as the parent.
Or even just parents in our community. They don't have to be an adult ed student, you just have to be 18 and over.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
thanks. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Kristen.
Okay, please do. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Our strategic plan. LCAP. Oh, no. Wow, because we reversed the order, of course. And so then Ava's been sitting here wondering, why? Why do I have to hear about the adult school? No, I'm sorry.
Not at all.
Please.
All right.
So what's up?
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to start off by saying that the high school hosted Midnight Madness last Friday, which is where student basketball teams competed in little scrimmages against each other to raise money for the senior class. It was excellently planned by Ella Nelson, and it went really well. And then I'm sure some of you are aware that Ukiah High School teachers had a meeting yesterday regarding the coronavirus, and today many of them in classes that I had and classes that I heard about have been very clear in explaining the realities of the situation and not letting the rumors and things get out of control, and explaining their individual potential plans for each class, which I found helpful as a student. The high school science Olympiad team made it to states, which is really exciting, and now the states have been canceled, which is more of a bummer. The same thing happened for my mock trial team. So we were going to be leaving for states in LA in 1 week, but those have also been canceled as well. So we're seeing a little bit of sadness at the high school recently because of that. Today we were also supposed to leave for a field trip to Monterey to explore ocean acidification in the AP Environmental Science class. Obviously, that also is not happening. So that's a bit of a bummer for the high school recently. In happier news, the boys swim team at their meet yesterday swam against Santa Rosa and won. And senior Emma Fleming went a North Coast section consideration time, which is a really big deal for swimming. Her time was 1 minute and 1 second in the 100-yard butterfly, which is pretty incredible. And this is a personal best for her, as well as an exciting moment for the entire team. So I wanted to end that on a slightly better note. Thank you.
Great. How do you think students are feeling about the potential closure of schools?
I know a lot of seniors are nervous about the graduation question and things like that. That's what I've been hearing a lot lately.
Oh my gosh, we would never let that happen.
Well, of course, but there's just rumors going about summer classes and things like that, and pushing everything back, and no one wants to go to school in the summer. So that's been a concern that I've heard lately. I think that because the teachers had the meeting yesterday, it's calmed down slightly just because there's been more actual information given out by every teacher to their classes. So I think that's calmed the situation slightly because everyone was wondering what was going to happen when we're seeing all of these schools closing and these districts closing. So I think that information output helped.
So as of today, we're still at 0 cases in Mendocino?
Yes,
just so you can
correct.
spread that word. It's only today. Tomorrow's a new day.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, we're going on then now to D1 in our educational program, our 2023 proposed strategic plan LCAP.
Thank you for having us tonight. We're very excited to again present to you some information. And as Becky Burford said, we've been hard at work on this plan since November. We've had a very highly engaged process with a lot of employee involvement. So I'm excited about that. We are still in the input gathering phase of this plan. So we're still working on input this month. I do have several sessions set up that I'm hoping to do by spring break to gain more input from stakeholders. So just know that as we're looking at this tonight, we still have a few more meetings to do with people. So we're not really asking you for a final decision tonight. We just kind of want to get a good straw poll that we're on the right track. And unfortunately, we have some deadlines around certificated staff that drive us bringing this to you tonight before we're finished with the input process. So anyway, that's kind of why we're a little premature in bringing you the whole plan tonight because of the certificated deadlines. So you've seen all these documents before. You saw them at the last meeting, and so that was great. On the strategic focus document, that's the 2-pager with the metrics on the back. You gave a good thumbs up at the last meeting. Again, we're not voting on that tonight, but you thought we were on the right track. And again, I really appreciate your comments to us about streamlining the process. We have been trying to do that, and we've gone from a 37-page document to a 4-page document. So we've been talking a lot about focus in our district. This is one example of focus, and we're really excited about that. Now, when we bring you the LCAP, it's going to be about 140-something pages, but we feel like this is a really good communication document to our community and to our stakeholders, and also for us to monitor and track. So you saw this also last time. It shows 3 years of a plan. And then we talked a little bit more in detail about the budget document. And at the board's direction last time, you asked us to put a star by something of the items that if we were waiting to see if we're going to receive 2 grants, if you'll remember, and if we receive those grants, that funding's going to be paid for by that grant instead of out of here. One example of that is career technical education funding. We want to make sure that we maintain our career technical education funds. We were supposed to find out today if we got that grant. We don't know yet. So, and that's about $200,000. So we did put the stars by those, and then we highlighted the items that the board indicated at the last meeting that you wanted to have more in-depth conversation on those, and I'll just point those out. One is to fund a math STEM TOSA, and that's a 1.0 FTE teacher position. The other one is to continue funding the science TOSA, and that's a 1.0 FTE position. We talked about the Gate Mesa position. You wanted to talk about that. We think that we can do that in a different way. And so you wanted more information on that. We're happy to share that with you tonight. And then you also wanted to talk about the behavior specialist that serves district-wide but is housed at Oak Manor. So those were the 4 positions that you wanted to discuss tonight. And what we thought we'd do tonight, we'll propose a process to the board, and hopefully it will sound good to you. We wanted to have you discuss those 4 positions, answer any questions, and give us an indication on those if you'd like us to proceed with those 4 positions. However, before we do that, I'd like to open it up to the board to see, is there anything else on this document that you would like to add, to discuss? And then we'll go back and discuss. And before we do that, I know I asked a question, I wanted to tell you one more thing. Just a reminder, especially for the people in the audience, we also have a more detailed document that's an internal document. We've pulled all the positions out of that document, but as I said at the last meeting, it's very technical. For example, there's a whole section on professional learning communities, and it talks about guaranteed viable curriculum, common formative assessments. There's a lot of technical language in it. It will help us internally keep everything on track that needs to happen in the plan. But that one is 11 pages instead of 37. So that is what we're doing tonight. So we wanted to talk about those positions and get a good idea from the board where you want to go with those. And I did want to also indicate that on the agenda, we have to do particular kind of service reductions tonight related to certificated staffing. So we did place these positions that we're talking about that are current positions on that list for a particular kind of service reduction, just as a precaution if the board decides that you want to eliminate those positions. So I think our first question is, do you want to just talk about these 4 since you saw this last time, or are there others that you want to add in to talk about?
Megan brought up an item on the consent calendar, and I can't remember, it was like F22, regarding excess funding that was going to be put towards, H something, that was going to be put towards computers, technology. And I'm not finding it right now, but my recollection was that we also had funding in one of these documents for technology. What's that overlap? How does that look?
Yes, that is correct. It's on this, and it's also in the past, we have spent unspent supplemental concentration grant funding on technology and instructional materials, and we usually bring that to the board every year. And as Katie shared the last time, I'll let Katie talk for a minute so you don't have to keep hearing from me.
So the item H20, and then in the strategic plan, is it on? Okay, sorry. Yeah. In the strategic plan, we've increased the amount of funding. We've doubled it to $320,000. And the reason we have done that is we know that we will be, and unfortunately, we're thinking it's even earlier than we expected. We'll have to start replacing Chromebooks, not because they are not working, but because their operating systems can't be upgraded, and the CASP and CAST, the state testing systems, are requiring us to have a higher or newer version of the Chrome operating system. Jason's done a lot of research on it. He's called. So because we were so lucky and fortunate to have funding to be able to really get to one-to-one quickly, we have groups, large amounts of Chromebooks that are all the same version. And because they're all the same version, we have large amounts of Chromebooks that will have to get replaced.
I'm sorry, I remember
Sure.
that part, which
Okay.
is kind of cool and kind of horrible at the
It's
same
frustrating.
time. And I couldn't find the funding source on Is it two different funding sources for that $300,000, or is one in lieu of another?
It's
Are
all
we-
supplemental concentration grant funding.
Except if we approve H22, then that frees up
We need even more than that.
So you're saying that next year we need $780,000?
We could even, we could even need more, but our plan right now, we have two drafted plans that we're working on. One is to actually do testing carts, because we will have an issue later on down the road. So, the testing cart proposal, it's not finalized, that we think would cost at least approximately $500,000, give or take. And then we're also looking at, and that's for one wave of the ones we would have to replace. And then we're looking at potentially having to replace some others as well. The problem with the carts, I'm also pushing Jason to look, he's more in favor of the carts. I'm more in favor of, could we potentially do the one-to-one at secondary replacement? Because we have to store the equipment and space and all of those things. So we're trying to figure out right now what to do, what is best, but it is a large amount of funding that is needed to replace the carts. And it's not exact, I don't have the exact number yet.
But it's a lot.
Yeah, and I find it very frustrating because we've done a great job at protecting our Chromebooks and, buying good cases and protecting our Chromebooks. And it's not, we have loss that we need to do because of regular repair and wear, but it's not due to that. It's just because of the state's requirements. And we're really on the forefront because we were some of the first districts, one of the first districts to go one-to-one Chromebook early on. So Jason's reached out to his colleagues, and a lot of people, it's not on their radar as an upcoming issue. And even yesterday, they gave an announcement that there was a glitch with one of the Chromebook operating systems and that you may need to upgrade to this newer system, and you may have a Chromebook that can't upgrade to that system. So there's a lot of issues going on with that right now.
So
we are recommending both, that we need the left unspent SCG and the increase for next year.
I guess, well, my question is, the economy is shortly going to tank. I mean, we've been on an uproar for a long time. Since I don't know exactly what's going on with computers, I'm hesitant to say that instead of saving that $400,000, I'm hesitant to spend it on computers instead of putting it in our savings account. And I'm wondering how critical is that need for the computers?
It's critical because of our requirements.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll do everything to not replace, whatever we can do to be the most frugal and to environmentally be the most sound, we'll do that. So it's kind of an interesting puzzle to figure out.
And I just have to say, we have such an amazing technology team. I know they're sitting here, but we are so incredibly lucky to have our technology team in our district. We've had a lot of stability in that team, and I think it's one of the reasons why our Chromebooks are doing so great,
Hanging
is
in
because
there,
we have
yeah.
such a great team. They're there on everything that we do in our district. They're such a backbone to what we do. So anyway, we're really lucky.
Thank you. Are you on the same topic? Trustee Barrett, on the computer topic or on a different topic?
I'm not on the computer. topic.
Okay, hold on, just a second.
Sorry,
Computer?
yeah, I just did want to, I wanted to echo a little bit about what Trustee Nelson was saying around technology. I'm really, I feel like they're like large amounts of money, and the amount, like, oh, suddenly there's this new plan that'll be like $0. Like, I just feel like I like to pay a lot of attention to the technology expenditures, and I'm just wondering if there's a way for the board to perhaps look at that separately, regardless of what we do tonight, in terms of what your plan is around the Chromebooks. Because we've wasted money in the past, we've spent it really well in the past. There's such large ticket items that
We can
I
bring
wouldn't
the
mind
plan.
getting an update. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're not totally clear on the plan yet, so when it is clear, that would be great.
We have two options.
We're getting there.
Okay. No, no rush, whatever is the timeline that makes sense to you, I wouldn't mind reviewing that and just getting a sense of what.
I'd also like to bring, maybe at the same time, we can bring our curriculum adoption plan timeline too, because I know that came up as a question on where we are with our curriculum adoptions and the funding related to that. So we could
Maybe
probably
be
do
together.
both. Yeah.
And just last little follow-up, it may seem petty, but I do think the Chromebooks seem to be lasting a long time, but I do hear from the students who keep telling me, oh, man, my Chromebook's kind of broken, but I don't feel like I'm too lazy or whatever to go tell the IT person. And I think it would be nice maybe if the schools could say, if your Chromebook is slightly broken, get it fixed. Don't just deal with your broken Chromebook, because we have people waiting to fix them. So it'd be nice to carry that message forward.
Computer?
Yes.
Yes.
So do you anticipate that this will happen again after a certain amount of time where we'll be stuck and have to get a bunch of new Chromebooks because they won't be able to update the software? And is this like a cycle that they put us in?
Sorry. So there's a silver lining on some of this in the fact that Google's getting a lot of pushback from districts and related to this issue, because when we first got Chromebooks, they said, well, we're going to guarantee updates for 3 years. And so we're like, well, that could possibly be more, but we'll have this minimum guarantee. After a while, people were saying, well, can you do this longer? So they upped it to 5. And then right now, anything we buy this year will be 8 years. So they keep extending the runway on the amount of time they're proposing to support them. And then we're also going to have some conversations with the SBAC and kind of explain that, you're forcing us to buy and replace perfectly working devices. The Chromebooks, as Katie said, we have, the first round of Chromebooks that we retired, the first generation, the ones we bought, the very first round, they still work. And we had the guys replace them with the new ones, and we brought a large section of them. We said, if you have places that you can use these that would not involve testing, please keep them. So we brought some back to the office, and then they slowly started coming back to get them. Like, well, we can use them here, we can use them there. So, and also, as Deb said, our team has just been great. We cannibalize broken devices, they replace keys, every little part that they can reuse, they have bins of them. And so we absolutely try to keep them working as long as we can. So it's really frustrating for us to have limitations put on us by software. But that being said, we are very happy to see that Google's supporting longer. And so then devices that we purchase going forward would have a much longer runway in terms of being able to use for testing. So not all bad news, but it is a lot of money.
But then would we be in a typical cycle of every 3 years, things get,
Yeah, so when we initially were looking at this project, the technology committee, speaking to other districts, we had a lot of doom and gloom about devices breaking. And, I was speaking to a colleague 2 days ago. I said, we're not doing the take-home one-to-one anymore. We've lost too many devices. They're just getting destroyed. And so a testament to our students also, that they're
Yes.
taking care of them.
yeah, I like that.
So, yeah, it's not all bad.
We did have a replacement plan, though, that was not like
Oh, sorry.
buying them all at once, and then like 5 years later, we can buy them all at once again. So.
Right,
but
this
we
was
did-
anticipated to have it this time, but
Yeah.
after this time, are we going to try and just,
They are going to be staggered, right, Jason?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
and do you see it as like if you're a rich business, you can do it like on a 3-year cycle, but some of us work where it's more of a 7-year cycle.
Yeah, I mean, we're really just limited by software updates, or we have been in the past. There's always the possibility that some of a vendor that we purchased from, the quality wasn't as good, or if we couldn't get parts. But generally, we've only been hamstrung by software updates. So we're fairly confident if Google will continue to support them, we'll be able to keep the fleet longer and have either less replacement cycles or dilute them down as they go.
And all the other districts have the same kind of issue?
Yeah, it's a common, in speaking, like Katie said, a lot of the ones that we talked to had not rolled out as aggressively yet. And so this was a problem they're looking at down the line, but not that they're facing now, because they've started
Right.
2 years ago. They're like, oh yeah, we're still getting updates, that'll be a problem later. I'm like, well, let me tell you, it's gonna be fun when you get there. So,
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah.
On this? Okay, thank you. All right, so now the other question then was, anything else to add that people wanted to discuss? Trustee Barrett?
Yes, I wanted to discuss the STEM education with equipment, fund STEM education with equipment and PD. And also the reading incentives to all schools.
Okay.
Great.
We're just noting items right now?
Yes.
That we wanted to, okay.
Anything else?
Anything else? Okay, all right. So do you want to go back to the 4 that were already done?
Or we could go from the top if you want.
Take it from the
President
top.
Mulgard, provide reading incentives to all schools.
The reason I brought this up, the schools, the elementary schools have done this for years. And I thought, well, if our focus is math, shouldn't we be providing math incentives to the schools? So that was my point in putting that in. I don't know if we want to say reading and math incentives, or, I don't know, if, anyway.
And I think that would be very in line with what the group that was working on the math, part of the plan around creating a positive mindset around mathematics. So I think that fits right in line. And the reading came up from our reading groups. They felt like we needed to get kids to read more, and that if we could provide more incentives, even at the secondary level, that would be really helpful.
What are the incentives? What are they?
So they do all different kinds of things. They'll give them awards or little keychains, or there's a variety of incentives that, as kids get older, those change. But that was the idea, was to do some more celebrations around reading. So I think it fits right in line with math as well, and what we discussed around mindset.
Do we need more money?
I think it's a silly amount of money.
I think so too.
Yes, we need more money.
So I'd like to see that doubled.
Okay, me too.
I mean,
Any
$500
objections
is
to
a lot.
doubling that tentatively while we work through
Are we
everything
doubling
else?
it for math and reading, or just doubling it for math?
I mean, I'm just tossing out numbers.
not
I was
even that.
suggesting doubling.
We're just doubling it. We're going to say reading and math incentives, and we'll double the amount.
To $1,000 per school.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, next item for discussion, Funday Math STEM TOSA 1.0, or did we have another one? Is that the first one that you wanted?
The STEM education, you want to
The
talk about
STEM
that?
education, I want to do that one again?
Yes.
That one. Yes, I was wondering if we need to keep that in for 2 more years after this one? Or if that can be reduced, if we look at it like, I mean, I'm looking at the cut mode here. And I'm thinking, if we fund it this year, maybe the staffs could strategically buy what they need to buy, and then we could not have it for the next 2 years, or put it back in if we had money.
I think that's a good idea.
I would support that. I think that it's easier to restore something than take it away if there's an expectation that it's going to be funded for 3 years. So I'd support having zeros in those 2 columns while we figure out whether it's ongoing expense or not.
Well, aren't we going to have some expense moving forward, though?
Well, we don't know how much,
I mean,
though,
you
right? This
can't-
is not a
You can't
person.
buy everything in 1 year and then not need it again.
What if it's like a thing that you use for more than, I don't even know what this is, equipment. I assume it's some sort of fancy thing that might continue.
Probably an MRI
I don't know what
machine.
it is, but it may or may not be an ongoing need.
Well, I think
Right.
it's something we could look at again. I just think to just fund it continuously with this year, next year is not a good idea.
We also may have some facilities needs that will have to be in the plan, so it would free up something there too, in case we have to put some facilities repair in our plan.
Right.
I guess I would prefer to just even put a placeholder in there of $10,000 for the last 2 years, just because I think it's unrealistic if we have a STEM school that we kind of it acts as a magnet charter school. We have to, it just is going to take a little extra money. So how would people feel about just saying, we recognize that technology is needed in that school, and we're going to at least give $10,000 a year?
And then we'd revisit it if we needed more.
Of course, or if you needed less.
Sounds good.
Could you live with that, Trustee Barrett?
Yeah, I suppose so, but I did ask about this money, and it's for the
It
high
is-
school and Pomalita.
It is
and
for
Eagle
3
Peak.
schools. The $110,000 is for Pomalita, Ukiah High, and Eagle Peak. They all have needs. They're all doing intensive STEM work. So the 110 would go for all 3 schools.
Right.
And it's okay to put a placeholder there. It would just remind us to look at it again.
Okay, and then next, for discussion, Math STEM TOSA 1.0, FTE.
So we're changing that to 10,000 for the following 2 years?
Any objections? Okay, so that's where we're heading. That wasn't an official vote. We'll take the official vote at the end, but thank you for clarifying. All right, yellow column, row, that's a row, not a column. I should have gone to school.
So, do you have any questions, or would you like us to give a little more feedback on what that position would look like?
Could you give us 2 sentences of why that's going to be key to our success?
So we, yes, so our,
It'll be a run-on sentence.
Yeah,
That's what I
I'm
feared. That's why I
trying to-
said
Situation
2.
in your sentence.
Okay.
Don't pause.
Ooh, okay, pressure's on. So as you can see, one of our major goals is mathematics for the next 12 months and ongoing. And we feel like STEM education is a great way to engage students in mathematics. We've had a lot of great STEM activities that have really engaged students throughout the last 3 years, both at Eagle Peak, at Pomalita, and our high school. So we feel like STEM education is really important and that it connects well with the need for math. And so this position would support and allow students to engage in more STEM activities, and would also support math professional development and articulation, especially in our transition grades between 4, 5, 6, and then between the middle school and the high school, which we did get a lot of feedback at our parent advisory committee. And then the last thing is also would provide parent education nights, and those do those require a lot of preparation and thought around how you're going to do a math night. We did one, and it took us a long time to get ready. Here last year, we piloted one. So those are the 3 main ideas around the position, and it was really an innovative idea that was brought to us from 2 teachers, and we did share that PowerPoint with you to really make Ukiah a STEM hub in Northern California. And so we really feel it's great for our students, and it will help us in addition with the math needs that we have. So that's really what we're looking at for that position.
Questions?
She's not, can I finish her sentence? Because she didn't put a period on the end yet.
I distinctly heard a period. Please.
Okay. To add to her sentence, her last sentence, I just wanted to say I really appreciate the innovative approaches that our teachers are taking. When I see our students at Science Olympiad and we're hosting regional events, we're going to competitions. The kids are so engaged and excited. And when you go into our schools and our classrooms and specifically around STEM, the level of engagement is extremely high, and I'd love to see more of it. And I think with this position, we could do more and really make that math connection to the upper elementary schools too.
Questions, concerns, improvements?
Is this more of a math TOSA or is it more of a STEM TOSA? How is that? I know it's brand new, but if you were going to break it down into percentages, would it be 50-50?
Well, we haven't hashed it all out yet, but the math, in STEM, the M is math, and the math is a very important component to that. We have not sat down and thought what percentage, but it would be a large percentage of that position.
Me again.
Good.
Well, I just want to preface this by saying that, when we started working on the strategic plan, we were really hopeful that Measure A was going to pass. It doesn't look good now, although I guess there's still a little bit of hope out there.
Only in people who wear rose-colored glasses, like me.
But, I just have to keep thinking, our schools are in need of so many repairs. And we need HVAC, we need roofs, we need flooring in schools. I went back through the plan that Gabe did on, what was it, I forget how many millions of dollars.
70, wasn't it, 70?
We just can't forget about that. I mean, we're in need of those things now, and we have to, think carefully about the money we spend. And I really do think that the math STEM TOSA is a worthy program, and I think that it does excite students. But when we look at the percent of our students who meet standards on math, it's not very high. It's more like 20 in most areas. We need remediation, and I don't think this program would offer remediation. And I think the best way to do the math remediation is with math mentors at the school sites. I think that would much better meet the needs of our students and teachers on supplemental pay. I just think money spent in the classroom is the best way to help students achieve. So I don't want to do away with continuing to support the Science Olympiad and the robotics, and I think those are really worthwhile programs, but I just think having another person as a math STEM TOSA is not what we need right now.
I think that's a very compelling argument. Others?
I think maybe we need both. I completely hear you, Trustee Barrett, on this one. But I think we need what you were speaking at more at the elementary level, and I think this is more junior high and high school, at least it appears that way. So I don't know if it's possible to do both, but I would support that we still keep this position, personally.
President Mulgard?
Yes, tell me.
I did want to say, and we were going to get this too, but we didn't. So we have another, what we're going to do is put together the other funding sources that we have, because in the math plan, it talks about paying teachers supplemental pay to serve as math mentors in the schools, so it addresses some of that. It also, I think we have math paraprofessionals in here, but there's funding set aside to really heavily train a math mentor at each school site and offer them supplemental pay to help mentor in math at the elementary schools. So, and I probably should have talked a little bit about facilities. We're going to bring something to you in April. I think if Measure A really doesn't pass, and there are 6,000 more votes to count, we will need to have some serious discussions in the fall about our budget and how we're going to deal with our facilities. We did meet this week to look at how much money we have right now to be able to do some stuff between now and maybe December. And so we have a little bit to be able to replace some HVAC, but we need to bring a comprehensive plan to the board in April. But I don't think that we will be able to, at this point in time in March, do much next year with HVAC replacement beyond what we're going to plan for with the money that we do have. So I think it would be okay to fund this for next year. I'm mostly worried about the 2 years after that, but just food for thought.
It's an ongoing in this plan.
It is.
And I know what happened before with the strategic plan. I mean, there were things that we felt should be cut after the first year, and we were told that we should wait until the cycle was up, and then we would look at it again. I mean, I'm the naysayer here, but I just think we can't adopt something, or I can't, in good conscience, with a 3-year out program. I think we need the money. I think waiting till fall to decide where we're gonna get the money is too late. I think we've gotta look at it now before we start spending it.
Well, the principle is, the sooner you make the cuts, the more you're gonna reap from that decision.
Oh, what, sorry.
Oh, I didn't even see it.
Are you able to see it now? Okay, if we look back at when we didn't have this position, and then are we able to measure the success, the benefit of having this position now? I mean, to keep it, I understand what Trustee Barrett, the concern is, but also what has been the benefit to our students? I mean, are we able to tell?
So
Yes.
this would be a new position? We currently don't have this position. So this would be a new one.
Okay, thank you.
You might be thinking of the elementary
The
science
science.
TOSA, which we'll be talking about also.
Thank you.
I'm in support of this position as the position, but I'm also hearing what Trustee Barrett is saying, and I'm agreeing with her, and there's two factors for me, and I'm kind of going to repeat what you said. One, Measure A looks unlikely to pass, and I'll tell you, there's three. I'm like suddenly thinking our economy is going to completely tank like tomorrow. And we did learn, this board, that when things are on here for 3 years,
They're on.
there's an intense, like, commitment from the district to keep them on. It's harder to take things off. So that's sort of, and I think that makes sense. We've been asked to commit to things for more than 1 year because it's hard to tell whether anything works. And I've heard that message over the years, that don't quit on something immediately. It takes time to implement. So all those factors are in my head. And I guess what I'm more interested in, and I don't know if we can do this right now, is really looking at some of these kind of one-off TOSA positions and really evaluating them in that light. I mean, I look at the school climate TOSA, I know that's not on, not one of our highlighted lists, but I'm like, well, which one is getting a better bang for our buck if we were going to measure math STEM versus the school climate TOSA? So if we were looking for where, if we were actually looking at where is our investment best spent, it would be kind of a different conversation than just looking at one position because it happens to be new this year. So that's where I'm struggling a little bit. And I'm leaning more towards committing to this document. There might be some changes that the majority of the board feels, but maybe not saying this is our 3-year plan and doing a pretty hard review later in the year, early next year or something, when some of these factors are more clear in terms of where we're headed as a district.
The 3-year plan is required by law.
We're going to
is
do
the
a 3-year
problem.
plan, but we
It
can
is.
change it any time, right? I mean,
You
we're
can
allowed to.
modify it next year.
We can modify it whenever we
You are
want.
going to try and buck school culture.
It's hard. That's why I was trying to like lay the groundwork now.
Good luck.
For that, because I think our concern is committing to these things for 3 years, while at the same time I know doing like a one-year program is usually a bad idea. So I don't totally know how to balance that.
Other comments?
I am a huge proponent of preparing for the disaster that is right around the corner. Our plan currently has a goal of really supporting math for the next year. We're having huge improvements in math for the next year. And so what I would suggest is that we fund the STEM TOSA for a year, which is in line with our plan. But that being said, I really want to focus on the math part of that. And I realize that the Science Olympiad and these other programs are great. But our math scores are crappy, and I think we need to really give it our all. But I would be in favor of funding it for 1 year. If we have money the following year, then it's, as has been pointed out, it's extremely difficult to cut positions. Nobody likes it. We certainly don't like it. And so let's not plan for it. So the district, the employees, nobody has to plan for it. We'll just fund it for a single year.
Could we hear what that could look like? What, oh, do you have a comment first? Okay.
I mean, I hear you on that, but that would mean we would end up looking at it a year from now, which means the program wouldn't have even been in effect for a full year. So the thing about cutting it after the first year and deciding that, if we decide it next March, it hasn't even been a year. So it seems like we're not giving it enough time to actually evaluate whether or not it would be effective because it's less than a year.
I guess my thought on that is the way I'm feeling about the Science TOSA, which I know is coming up, is part of what the presentation, what I heard is that it's helping to re-educate teachers on how to teach the new math, helping the matriculation from from elementary school to junior high into high school. And I think a lot of work can be done in a year. It's different than in my view, it's different than a program that is, that we need 3 years or 5 years to build on, to reflect, to see if it's done good. We want to get in, we want to really support our staff on improving their skills so they can teach math better. That's my sense.
No, that's okay. Could 1 year help set things up, help you set up the new strategic plan? Or not?
We'll take anything.
Well, but if you don't spend the 110,000 here, you might have a better place to spend it that will give you more return. Because if you're not going to get much return here, then that's a different vote we have to make.
I'm not okay, I mean, I personally would not vote for just 1 year. I would be voting for at least 2, so you might want to figure that out first.
What, I missed that. You'd be voting for?
I'm not in support of only 1 year of this position. I would be supporting at least 2. So I'm just saying, I don't know, I don't know what the will of the board is yet in terms of how long you want this position. I hear at least one member saying potentially 0 years, another one saying 1 year, and I know I'm at least 2, so we're not all on the same page yet. So that's what I'm saying.
True, that's why I just wanted
Yeah,
more information, but it doesn't sound like there's I don't know. Is there a compelling argument that you all would like to make right now about the 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year?
Well, I think because it's a new position and our focus is math, we should fund it for 2 years.
Okay.
My only concern is the budget, but we could always address it next year. I share your concerns about the budget and the economy. So I'd really like to see us support innovation and math, and I think this position helps with that.
Yeah, I'd like to see innovation in math too, but I would, knowing how these kids are coming in, I would tend to focus on how can we help those teachers do that better rather than an extra one. Trustee Arkin, do you have any thoughts? No? Okay.
My thought is we're all talking about budget and what kinds of things we're gonna need possibly, and that we might not have enough for things to go around, and all of a sudden we have a totally new program. And we can't do it for 1 year. It's true. It's not good enough. It's either you're gonna do it for a longer period of time, so you really have a good judgment, or a decent judgment on it, or not at all. You know, then if for some reason we see with what we're doing now that we might need something next year, then let's put it in next year. I just don't wanna have to throw it in and then take it away. If we're concerned about budgets, I feel it's not fair to the rest of our programs or our needs to be putting that money out.
I was looking at the compromise 1 year too, but I hear what everybody's saying, and I would tend to go down to the 0 versus toward the 2, personally. I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in at this point.
Another thought, just throwing ideas out, is we still have more stakeholder input to get. This position, we are, it's a new position, and although it's a hard-to-fill position because it's in the area of science and math, that would be my only hesitation in waiting a little bit, but you could wait until April when we're finished with all of our stakeholder input, if it helps you at all.
Do we, I guess my question was, was there a previous decision as to how we were going to do this?
And Ann, I don't know if you want any public comment?
If I didn't know there was any. Is there public comment?
Okay.
Can I ask a process question?
Please.
President Mulgard? So I think I got a little thrown off because I thought today we were going to be approving this, but we're not, because you're going to seek further stakeholder input. So is this the appropriate time to make motions that one may or may not? Are we all distracted for a second? But, okay. I'm going to carry on. Is this the appropriate time to make motions on what numbers you want in the columns, or do you want to wait on that?
It would help us give us some direction. You're not completely approving this plan tonight, but
It's not the final vote.
it would be helpful to give good direction to see where the board is on things.
Okay.
Especially on the part where we have to give notice to people, but we haven't gotten to those yet, those positions. We've just talked about new things so far.
Okay, so I guess what we could do is just kind of take a straw poll and move on to the next item, and you're not bound by this when we take a vote next month.
Can I ask one more question?
Please.
Which stakeholder groups are left that you're gonna chat with?
We have to do our consult with CSEA. I am visiting UTA, their executive committee, their site building rep committee, at the end of the month. I'm going to DLAC, and our students. And we've done a bunch of stakeholder groups already.
Okay.
Oh, Health Advisory Committee too.
Oh, so there's 5. Good. A lot. Okay.
This is for next month,
This is for this month.
or this month, you're
And we're going to be 6 feet apart.
I was just going to say, and you're going to be way. Okay. Okay. Okay, so given that the plan is here, if you were voting today, would you support the TOSA position or not? Is the question. Yeah, let's just do a thumb. Okay,
Okay.
so it doesn't give you much direction.
They're 4 up, 3 down.
It was 4-3, so that's not
You were
much
down?
direction. I was down. I'm gonna be down on everything,
So
just as a warning. Just for a
So
warning
I guess, can I just make a general comment?
about my being down on
Maybe,
everything.
but just a little bit. I think so I feel the sense of direness. We're in the middle of like a pandemic. Everything's kind of like unsettled and grim. But I do want to caution us that we do have a fairly good idea of what our funding should be next year. if there's some sort of enormous collapse, all school districts will be having the same kind of conversation we are, so it's not going to be unique to us if everything completely falls apart. And I always remember somebody saying, you know, you spend today's dollars on today's students. So I just want to make sure we're balancing our sense of dire doom with, we do have a year ahead of us, we do have money, and we do have kids that need things. That's all I just wanted to say.
And I also agree with what you said about looking at the TOSA positions as a group.
Yeah.
That's worth thinking about, that if we are going to try and save money that, or for our
In
facilities.
future years.
Looking at all of the TOSAs and seeing, you know, which ones do we really want to keep if we have to let go of some.
I totally agree. I think we're putting more emphasis on new positions when it might be that the new one is more valuable than an old one we'd already been funded, because that's not what we were looking at. We were focusing on highlighted items.
You had your opportunity to add things to the agenda discussion.
Well,
I'm kidding. Of course we
Right.
should look at those.
But I'm just not, I have a sense of doom, but not quite as doom, maybe. And so that's just what I'm sharing.
$70 million is the amount in that facilities plan.
Yeah, but that included like shade, like, that was
But,
the whole hog.
but the conversation
No.
of how we're going to address that
It wasn't.
is, the conversation of how we're going to address that and the impending economic collapse is not going to be dealt with today in the next 10 minutes. So that's just,
Trustee Barrett?
I understand where Megan's coming from, but I still think that our remedial students are the ones we need to really deal with. I mean, not that the other isn't wonderful, but we've got to raise those math scores, and I think that's where we need to focus. And also, somebody mentioned this, but it's very difficult to find math and science teachers. And if we decide to go ahead with this position, it's probably going to be taking someone out of one of our classrooms. Then we're missing a good math or science teacher. So I just think you have to keep all those things in mind.
All right, moving on.
Not much to work with.
No, but there's nothing we can do about it.
No.
So that's okay. Science TOSA 1.0 FTE.
So the discussion at the last meeting was to look at this position. The board's understanding was that it was a temporary couple of year position. And Katie shared with the board that we're piloting science materials next year, and this position would help do that. And so there was discussion about, do we fund it for no years, just one more year, so we can help out with that science adoption, and then put zeros in year 2 and 3. So that's really the discussion tonight.
Okay. Trustee Barrett?
Oh, I just
Oh, it
left
was
my-
still up? Oh, no, you don't
But
have to
that's
talk.
okay, I'm on a roll.
All right,
Mine's
keep
made
it
it.
going. Keep it going,
I'm just
Trustee
shutting
Barrett.
things down tonight, just keep on.
You betcha.
Anyway, I just feel that we've had this position for 2 years, and we really didn't intend for it to go further than that. And in my mind, I never thought it was going to be an ongoing position. And so I don't want to fund it.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with Carolyn. I know that we have had, from my recollection of the last meeting, that there has been training that has been going on for the last 2 years or 3 years? 2 years. I kind of tied into our last conversation. I'd rather take some of our limited resources and focus on, frankly, focus on math, which is one of our goals for the next 12 months. In addition to that, I'm going to withhold that comment.
Okay. All right, other thoughts about the science TOSA? Well, I wasn't at the last meeting, so I didn't hear all the discussion, but I got a summary, and I really like the one-year idea because of the delay in the curriculum. I mean, we thought this was going to be over, but it's not over. So I guess the question is, has all the material to implement it already been produced, so there's no work left? Or in order to make a successful launch, do we need the TOSA there to guide, make adjustments, keep training?
So the TOSA position has been, in the last years, has been providing professional development, both outside of the classroom through training and then inside the classroom through model lessons, and has continued that this year and also provided some other additional trainings. And of course, there's other duties like science fair and curriculum work. The TOSA is currently working on the adoption process for next year. So in the next, hopefully everything's okay, in the next 2 weekends, not this weekend, but the 2 subsequent weekends, teachers will be meeting pilot teachers to review materials. And then a decision will be made what materials to pilot. And then next year would be the pilot where there's training that has to be given and then support to those pilot teachers. So that's the, and the adoption was pushed forward 1 year because we didn't, the leadership principals felt like it was too much to try to do another science adoption right after we had adopted English language arts, and they really needed 1 more year to get that solid before they moved on to science. So that's why that was delayed. So that's the main part of that position for the next year would be really supporting that pilot and then providing and supporting training for the rest of the teachers that for the, once it's adopted in that, usually we do training in June to get ready for the next year.
Okay, so that could still, I was wondering that if you were just going to say, well, it has to be 2 years, because then there's the implementation of everybody else. But, okay.
And just, sorry, President Mulgrew, to clarify this position, because it's an existing position, we would like a decision from the board tonight on this, just because we have to give a precautionary, particular kind of service reduction, which is
Right.
later on the agenda.
Sure.
So, are all the schools having her?
Yes,
Having
she's
the
gone.
science?
Yeah, in terms of going to classrooms, it is voluntary, so we don't, we don't require, but she reaches out to all the sites. Last year, I didn't bring my notes with me, but she got into about 70% of the classrooms. We have about 100 elementary classrooms and did lessons. And this year, she's working on kindergarten this year, but has got into most of the classrooms and has done some other extended lessons for some teachers that wanted some more modeling.
So it is all our elementary schools,
Correct.
not middle?
No,
neither?
no, just elementary.
What is the, came to my mind, that when the Bridges program rolled out, my understanding is that it was pretty arduous for the teachers, that transition to that program was, there was a lot involved in it. What is the difference, and my recollection is we didn't have a TOSA for that.
Correct.
What's the difference between
Yeah,
this?
we had trainers come and outside trainers, yeah.
Okay, so there was some outside training.
Yes, from the curriculum company, Math Learning Center. And then we also we've trained a teacher on special assignment who also, and another teacher who does our beginning teacher training every year.
I guess one suggestion I have, and it's a little bit snarky, but I think there is some merit to it, is the various elementary schools decided to push off the adoption of the science standards for a year. And so I'm wondering if we should take out the $100,000 to cover it for the additional year or 2 years that we keep the science position, take it out of their budgets.
I don't,
Trustee Nelson, in terms of curriculum adoption, as an elementary teacher, you teach all subjects. And so when you adopt a new curriculum, there's a lot of planning and training that goes on. And we did math and then English language arts. And to really get deep implementation of those two curriculums, it made a ton of sense to all of us to take a year to not adopt a new curriculum right away, so they could really implement those other two. That's why. It was not the teacher's decision.
I totally appreciate that. I'm just cranky that we had, one of our top-level teachers out of the classroom. It cost the district, over $100,000 to fund that. And I really do appreciate the workload that the teachers had. I'm cranky. I don't think we ought to support this for another year.
All right, so there's two things that have been mentioned. If you could focus your comments on whether or not you would support a motion for a 1 year or a 0 year. Those are the two things that board members have mentioned so far. Trustee Vincent?
I support a one final year.
You're well, I don't mean to cut you off. You're
That's all
welcome
I
to make
said. No,
a big pitch if you'd like.
No,
Didn't mean to cut you off.
that's all I-
Okay. Would anyone else like to weigh in?
I think the money is better spent elsewhere. I'm up for 0 years.
All right, we've got a 1 and a 0.
I'm zero.
0.
Is there a possibility, as Tyler was talking about, when you brought in Bridges people, the consultants who helped them, that's not a possibility of that happening for their science?
I was just asking Katie how much it cost us to hire the consultants to bring in to do the Bridges training.
You read Trustee Arkin's mind.
It's about $3,000 a day is what Katie is saying to bring the consultants in for training, so.
And so you had how many times in the year, approximately?
Let's see, they did a 2-day training and another 2-day, and we've had math solutions come. We've probably done just like consultant trainings with mathematics, probably about 8 days, 6 to 8 days.
Didn't the teachers leave the classroom?
Some of these were outside the school day. Actually, most of them were. And then we had some coaching, and we've had some other models.
I feel like I'm being Pollyanna to the doomsday people here, but I hear what you're saying, Trustee Harkin, and I'm not really advocating one way or another, but I do think that our administrators have a plan in place. It included this position to do this last step of the curriculum
Piloting.
adoption. If we make them switch gears and hire consultants, like, that is more work. They do appear to have a vision. We know it took, they had a whole extra year to get the vision together because of the delay. So it should be a super well planned out division because we spent 2 years planning it. So I just want to say that they already have made some investment in this path. To me, it makes sense to finish the path rather than switch gears.
I would be in favor of finishing the path for 1 year only.
I would too, 1 year only.
I'd like to support 1 more year.
It's not yet.
I'm okay with supporting 1 more year, but I do want you to know, I'm not looking at it as a doomsday.
Okay. All right, great.
You're not always going to be on one side or the other.
I would never think B would be doomsday.
Set enough direction? Good, thank you. All right, now, the next thing we're going to look at,
Can
and
we
let's
take
go
a
ahead and,
quick bathroom break?
we could. Okay, the big clock says 17 after, we'll come back at 22 after. can't do anything.
Welcome back.
Now he made it work. All right, now what are we gonna try? Maybe I'll try the Snickers now. All right, Snickers, that's it. Just keep
Out of the way. Don't go pass them down here.
All right, leave him with Tyler. He's in the middle.
No, I say you keep this. I already ate a whole bunch of them.
I like being right here. Somebody can see that. Gross.
Okay, continuing. Now that we heard there might be some interest in a few other things, regardless of whether or not you brought it up earlier as a topic, we're just gonna say, any requests for discussion about secondary instrumental music program? We're waiting.
Every single one.
Just super quickly.
No, that's,
All right, how about anything in equity and arts? Anything needs further discussion? Okay. How about anything in equity college CTE? We covered technology. There are some increases over here. Okay, hearing none, let's talk about GATE, MESA support and activities. We have,
So we talked about this last time. We'd like to possibly modify, we currently have a 1.0 FTE position to support GATE and MESA in the district, and this is also on the PKS reduction list. We think we can do, it's an interesting combination of job duties. We've had a lot of turnover in that position. That position is currently going to be vacant for next year, and so we thought it was a good time to relook at the position. And we think what we'd like to do is have a .4 MESA position and then cover the GATE duties and responsibilities through a variety of ways. One is we have an assessment cadre. They're mostly retirees who go around the district and help administer assessments. And so we thought maybe we could have that group do these GATE assessments. And then the after-school support of the after-school activities that we do with the GATE students, we could actually pay teachers hourly pay to do those activities. So that is what we are thinking about these two, these programs. We think that we need to still fund them, but we think we can do it in a different way.
So you're not reducing the amount of money in these columns?
We did reduce the amount from what it was last year slightly. And then we're kind of working on right now, we've drafted out a plan around costs, so that number, it'll likely go down, the amount.
Trustee Nelson?
And that number also includes materials and supplies too, in that amount.
For this particular document, do we need to separate the GATE MESA, the way it's structured, or do we leave it like that with the dollar amounts?
We could bring it back separated. We could bring it back as a .4 FTE MESA and then GATE support as a separate line item. We could definitely do that
Okay.
when we bring it back in April.
I'm in support
That's a
of
great
the
idea.
change. I wasn't sure if we needed to dump something and then add it back in a different
I
format.
think that's a great idea to do it that way in the document. And because we're changing it, that would be the PKS reduction, although we plan to bring back the .4 MESA position. So it's precautionary, preliminary notice we'd be giving, although there's no notice going out because the position will be vacant next year.
Right. Did the teachers say that there are enough teachers who would be interested in that extra hourly?
We haven't really put it out. It would probably be, likely it would be one of our, we have to have an open process, but when it's just a .4 position like that, a lot of times it'll fit into a secondary school's master schedule. For example, at the high school, there may be a teacher at the high school who would do this position, or at one of the middle schools as a .4, and then they'd be teaching the rest of the time.
Hearing nothing else, we will move on. Wait, is that up or not? No, sorry. Okay. Okay, on the backside of page 2, there's a K-5 after-school tutoring increased by 100,000. Anybody need discussion about that?
The reason why that is increased is we went, as you'll recall, we went through our federal program monitoring this year. And we did have a blended tutoring program in our elementary schools that was multi-funded through supplemental concentration grant funding and migrant education funding. Our tutoring program actually started through migrant education funds. And it was so popular that our school sites wanted to do more. And so that's when we increased for supplemental concentration grant funding. We were told that we cannot use the funding in that way. And so we can no longer use migrant ed funding unless we're going to add additional tutoring on top of that with migrant ed funds. So that's why this number has increased. We want to continue to support the amazing after-school tutoring program that we have at our elementary schools, and we need to use more supplemental concentration grant funding. And this actually, in talking with, in our subgroups that have met, and then talking with our groups that we have consulted with, this tutoring component is really important to them. And if we don't increase it, we're going to have to reduce it from what it currently is. Ironically, because of the federal program monitoring that we went through, we actually have to end our tutoring program early because of the restrictions with migrant ed funding this year. It's ending in, Becky, you know, when is it ending?
Well, ours is going to end at our site on May 1st, I think.
Right. And so the sites want to keep it all year. Anyway, this year that won't happen, but we're hoping through that we have more flexibility with supplemental and concentration grant funding, and we will be able to continue it.
Well,
And not end it.
sites actually have money left at the end of the year. Shocking as though that may be.
It is shocking, yes.
Not often our elementary sites, not
Oh,
often. It is
okay.
very rare. Most of our elementary sites spend most of their money on personnel.
I just have a question about how many students do we serve in this after-school program?
So we have 4 teachers that each site has approximately 4 teachers. Sometimes teachers will share, and they'll have groups. We try to keep the groups at about 16. So that's about 64 students. So that's yeah. And most of the students, well, not most, it's a mixture of some kids that are in the ACES program and some that go home after the tutoring.
And this is definitely intervention for kids.
Yes.
Okay, nothing else? All right. Any questions under the other category? Is substitutes, is that about the same? Did the increase that we did 2 years ago, did that work for improving
We
your
still
ability
have
to find
substitute
substitutes?
shortages.
Really?
Oh, it's horrible, both for classified employees and certificated.
Okay.
I'm at a loss. 'Cause
And we're actually paying more than anybody else, right?
we pay $150 a day, but if you retired from Ukiah Unified, you're paid at step 1, column 1. And what we've been talking about is maybe we should open that up to other retired teachers from other areas. And maybe we could attract some teachers from other areas to Ukiah Unified instead of the districts that they're subbing in now. So we're talking about that. It was brought up in our consult with UTA.
Sounds like a good idea.
So that it'll be more of an expense, but it really is sometimes crippling.
Right,
Our
right.
district and our ability to do professional development or to even just deal with the daily substitute daily absences.
Well, I think having a high-quality substitute
I
is
agree.
enormous. Otherwise, I mean, that's often just a totally lost instructional day.
Right.
When the poor substitute is totally.
Right.
Right.
So I'd like to see us pursue that, and then I'd like to put it in all the newspapers in our county. Sorry.
And perhaps Lakeport.
Diabolical, yes, and in Lake County, yes, good
Yeah.
idea, and Cloverdale would be a good spot, too.
Even Cloverdale. Oh, my goodness. She's really scheming now.
We have teachers that drive from North Park.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
my goodness.
We'll put it in the,
They're exhausted by the time they get here. Okay. All right. All right, any other any topics under positive culture? This might have already been answered, so excuse me if it has been, but, so one of the things that we get to do when we have an alternative to suspension is we get to bill the state, right? We get ADA. So don't we get 3 schools times, let's say there's 5 kids in the class, times $60 a day, times 180 days, and we got $135,000. It's really cool to have a little calculator right here on my phone. So wouldn't increased ADA actually offset a lot of that? And are we putting the increased ADA anywhere? Are we putting that in the revenue?
it should offset some. The challenging part is and we could go through this year and calculate at Pomalita, for example, how much lost ADA we would have if those students were suspended.
We're about to lose a whole bunch of ADA.
No, the state won't do that.
They won't do that.
So we could go through and calculate that. It could be a little less.
I think it'll be a lot less. I think it'll be.
We're
At least
excited
if it-
we're excited about those classes, though, and the school sites are very excited. In fact, I got an email from a principal today saying, when can we move forward on filling this, from the high school? They're very excited. So,
That's going to be a really interesting hire.
they have people internally who are interested. So
Interesting. Okay.
these are all dependent on finding the right teacher.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. Well, I want to take money away from it just because I know cost benefit, I mean, of course there has to be more revenue, but it might not matter in terms of, it doesn't have an effect on how many people we're hiring or anything like that. So it's more just moving money within the budget. And so maybe it doesn't really matter.
I would say that we have not had good luck with tying positions to an expected increase in ADA. It doesn't always materialize that way.
That is correct.
And I think our superintendent has learned that, perhaps, over
Yes.
at least one position. So I would be, I mean, it would be wonderful to see increased ADA, but I wouldn't want to tie it to those positions, since we have learned that does not always materialize as we had expected.
But we can do a calculation, just an estimate
Yeah.
of this
Oh
year
my
of how
gosh,
much
I
we
think it's part of the report. I
Right.
mean, it's part of the analysis. It's not the only reason we're doing it, but, yeah, all right. Okay, anything else? Y'all talked about the new thing, okay, fine. You don't want to keep talking? We won't keep talking. All right, positive culture well-being, as compared to just positive culture. So we have a gold line, behavioral specialist, district-wide 1.0 FTE. Carolyn, would you like to start? It's just fun.
I wouldn't say that. Anyway, some of us asked for how many students this person had seen, and was only 8 students outside of that school. And this position, sorry.
Press button.
This position is,
Press it again.
again,
Yeah.
okay, is not supported by leadership except for the Oak Manor principal. So, or at least that's my understanding. So I don't believe we should fund this position any longer.
Any other comments from the board before we go to staff?
No, I was just going to to ask, if the consensus from leadership is that to not continue this position?
The
principals?
majority of leadership said that, yes. And I do want to make a comment about that. We are, as a district office team, we are mostly aligned with leadership on most decisions, but you'll know over the years, it hasn't always been 100%. And, there are a variety of reasons for that. I would say 98% of the time, we are in alignment. But every once in a while, there's something that comes up where we're not. And the principal whose position is at this site, this position was requested out of that site 2 years ago because they were having a lot of behavioral problems and issues. And so just a little bit of history on the position. And that principal at Oak Manor, and Katie, you had the conversation with him, but he finds the position extremely valuable, so. I don't know
Okay,
if
so
you
how
want
how many students were they working with before? Because there's been a change in the classroom there, right? In the number of classrooms or the number of students?
Well, last year, the
Special
board
needs.
told us that they wanted to see this position not just at Oak Manor, but serving district-wide. And so we offered the services up to the rest of the district, and Katie, you can talk about that.
So the number has been limited in terms of students. And I just want to remind folks the behavior specialist position is not a special ed position. The staff that at Oak Manor, when we first started the position, felt like there were a lot of students that had behaviors that needed support and that they needed support and how to help deal with those students in the classroom. So I shared the numbers with you. I got those numbers from the principal. The position also works with students at Oak Manor, quite a few students. They also provide parenting classes because that was part of the job description that we wanted, was to help support the parents who have kids who have behavior issues. Has worked with classified staff and has done some implementation of adult mentors and training those mentors. But I did just want to clarify that that position doesn't support the TIERS program. It's just regular ed students. And the other reasoning behind supporting that, the continuation of the position, was also that it is a Tier 3 support. So when we've had students that have had additional behavior support or academic support in Tier 2, and then they're still having other issues, this is a support for Tier 3 that's not special ed. So that was one of the reasons the principal felt like that was important to keep. And also to help support what's called Child Find, where sometimes if we suspect that there is a student that might have a disability, that we need to look for that student, and this position does that by looking at behavior. So that was really the reasoning behind the support for the position. I just wanted to, I know there were a couple questions on that, and the number of the Frank Zeke, although it's 3 students, I did ask Frank Zeke, that position has visited Frank Zeke a lot of times and provided support, even though it's only 3 students. I think the other visits were more brief. So I did want to give you that information, yeah, and parents.
Trustee Nelson?
I can understand how the Oak Manor principal would be really excited about keeping this person. I think to me, it feels like it's evident that it isn't a program that's used throughout the district. I'm not in favor of keeping this position.
Trustee Vincent?
Even though I've been trying to be optimistic, to me, this position feels a little bit like some of the other positions we discussed earlier tonight, in that it was, and I'm using the word sold to us, I don't quite mean it that way, but it was advocated for and in a certain framework, to me, I was always a little uncomfortable about putting this extra support in one school that I think a lot of our schools could have benefited from. And I do feel like it was tied to this concept of the tiers classrooms that were at that site. I understand they're not working with those tiers classrooms, but to me, that was sort of how it was advocated for. And since the tiers classrooms are now being transferred over to a different entity to be responsible for them with a different level of support, to me, it does feel like it's time to not support those needs in the same way that we have before. So I'm still open to a model that supports severe behavior issues district-wide, but concentrating it at one school, to me, I'm not real comfortable with that either. So I too would be in support of eliminating the position, but I would be open to another way to support that need that's felt more equitable.
So were you successful in finding more children with special needs at Oak Manor? Were there more children discovered in Oak Manor than in other schools?
I don't have that information.
Okay.
I could get it, though.
I would just like to point out one more thing. I believe the current principal was not the principal at the time this position was obtained,
That's
correct?
Yes.
And maybe I'm way off base with this. I know our elementary counselors are not behavior specialists, but I would think a lot of the things that behavior specialists do, the school counselors could help with in the classroom.
So I'm still a little confused on the process we're following, but.
Right now, we're about to do a thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody need any more information? Okay, so you're not voting tonight, we're gonna vote next week, but if you were to vote, thumbs up for keeping the 112,000, et cetera, for 3 years, or thumbs down for eliminating that position? Okay, does that give you kind of an idea? All right. Kind of an idea.
Rough board tonight, we're just.
Not rough enough, baby. Okay, positive culture, safety. Anything to discuss in that area? Provide funds for school safety, increase health assistant work days to 190, okay. All right, mentorship, no changes there, so any questions? All right. Equity supports, support parent education programs with childcare and food, bilingual community liaisons, Prop 47 grant, foster homeless liaison is a new position with very, okay, with very low salary. That's not salary, that's benefits too, right? That's a very low salary. Anyone else like to comment? Or will the two people who work for Health and Human Services manipulate this conversation?
I'd like to comment.
Yes, I know you would.
I'm in support of this foster homeless liaison. I think it's critical that we, have extra attention to that really vulnerable group. I do want to encourage us to use this position in ways that it's not duplicative of what the county already offers. I did see some communication on the list of kind of tasks, and some of them I'm like, the county already does that. Let's let them do their thing and try to do stuff that's above and beyond or supplemental to what the MCOE already provides. I'd really like to see something much more substantive than snack packs. And I'm not saying those are not important, but there's already another entity that's providing the basics for these kids. I'd like to see this much, much more intensive work, the home visiting, the setting up the after-school tutoring, that kind of thing. That's what I would advocate for.
We also want that position to do a deeper dive and data review and really make sure we're monitoring those students closely around what their academic and behavioral needs are. So,
Can we do much more than just looking at the academic needs?
yeah.
Actually, like.
I mean, looking at it and then saying, okay, sites, how can, what do these
One of the
kids
things I'm
need?
frustrated with is that we talked years ago about setting aside funds for in-home tutoring for those kids. We talked about making sure the teachers were invited to the multidisciplinary teams talking about those kids, and my sense is that never really happened, and I don't want to, I just never heard that that was a successful strategy. And I think that this position could be instrumental in fostering the communication as well between school sites and social services. That kind of communication never happens as well as it should. I know why, because I work in one of the large agencies, so it's there's reasons all over the place, but somebody who's really working towards that intensive communication around these kids with outside agencies would be really important.
I'm concerned about the salary. I think if you're going to do it, you should do it at a little bit higher rate and actually have them as a specialist who works with the family and community liaisons that are already at the schools, because they have the relationship with the students and with those families. And so I think it would just be really hard to find somebody with that skill set at $56,000.
I have to look at how that was costed out.
Okay.
It's like a 5 years.
It's a family community.
Oh, it is a family community liaison. It's at the same rate as the family community liaisons.
I would suggest if there is another position, I mean, we don't have to make it too complicated, but if there is something that would be a better fit that would provide a higher level of skill, I would also support that.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. There's the PLC celebrations and incentives.
That
is
seems low to me.
new. That seems oddly low.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know what the $300 is for, but you can't do much with $300. So if there's more to help incentivize PLCs, I know that's a core thing we really want to work on.
What were some of the ideas that could be, that money would be spent on?
They're not, I mean, not keychains.
I think it was just kind of celebrations.
Parties.
Yeah, to celebrate, highlight or be able to give an incentive to a teacher or a team that has done really well. So we didn't put a large amount in there.
Okay.
You love cake?
Coffee cards?
Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of coffee cards.
If it's a fine amount, that's fine. It seems small.
Just bothers.
You can increase it, it's fine.
Okay.
Give us a number.
We could get some input on amounts
All right,
needed.
so,
I am okay with $3,000, and I know this is starting to sound old, but we have had a raging awesome economy, and things will be turning south. Let's start out, I would propose that we start out with $3,000, $3,300, and see how it works.
Okay.
all right, I disagree. I think it's so little and the paperwork will take so much and it's literally not worth it. So I will vote against it at 300. I would vote for it at 500, but not at 300. But that's just.
Shall I change it to
one vote.
500?
I don't know if anybody else cares enough.
It sounds like an auction almost.
It's
Do I hear 350?
$1,700.
Yeah.
I support 500. I think if you're going to do something, put enough money
I
to
do
make it
too.
actually meaningful. Otherwise,
support
nothing.
And just psychologically, I think it gives the principal or the teachers who are leading the PLCs. I mean, at a school, for example, at an elementary school, that would give $100 to each of the teachers who's leading a PLC for each grade level. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Anyway.
Carolyn, you and I are going to really have to work on this budget thing. Steve, we're going to need some help
Well,
here.
no, you don't want to argue with me about $2,000. We got to argue about the big ticket items.
Okay.
Was there, right, but there was a discussion about some of the other TOSAs. Do we want to have that discussion now, or do we want to put that over until April?
Next year.
I don't think we need to have the discussion now, but I think I'll try to repeat what I already said, but I'll do it more succinctly. The process that we used today was coming from a process that did not include the loss of Measure A, the impending economic doom, like, we went through a process that was not necessarily the climate we're in right now. I don't think we should throw everything out, nothing like, let's carry forward with it, but I do want us to think now about how are we gonna do a more careful review of what we've been investing in light of how our needs have probably changed. Again, I think we're gonna be fine for next year, but we're gonna have, I think it's likely we'll be making some hard decisions in the very near future, and I'd like us to start thinking now about what that process will look like.
We don't just live for year to year. I mean, we are allowed to put some money in reserve to save.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think we will have money to put in reserve. I'm not sure later, when we look at age 20, spending $400,000 in technology right now, and we don't totally have a clear idea of what our needs are, is an idea. So I think these things happen, that we end up with reserves.
And that would come back to the board before being spent, correct?
What would come back?
Right now.
Oh, that's true, it is.
And I just do have to apologize. I sprung that on this.
It's
You
okay.
didn't know I was going to bring that up, so.
It's really nice that we had Jason here, so.
Does anybody else have any thoughts? Oh, I see one up.
I do. As we're coming to the end of this process, the one thing that I kind of blew a few months ago when we started this is, we've talked a lot about focus. We've had group meetings about focus. And one thing that I probably didn't rail on hard enough as we were going through this process is, what programs have we actually reduced? I don't think we've reduced anything yet. And this was a really great time, and I'm coming late to the game. But I think we really need to continue to focus on being focused. There's a lot of talk right now. I think we need to actually have action, and I would encourage, there was so much complaining about all the different things we ask our staff to do. I'd like to support them in their focus, even though it's hard to cut, maybe they could help us out.
And I know there's not a lot of eliminations here, but there is next year we are doing some internal focus. Next year, for example, our staff development days, they're all going to be around doing the work of PLCs. We're not going to do more PLC training necessarily, but those are going to be very much site-driven, and they're going to be doing all of the work that's outlined in the plan. So that's an example of focus. We're not going to do 5 different topics of professional development next year. This plan is 4 pages as opposed to 37. I'm just giving you some examples because you know that we report on this quarterly, right? So we report on 37 pages quarterly. So anyway, we have done some, maybe not enough.
I think this is awesome. I'm glad that at the administrative level, we're starting to really drill into it. Some of the, and I wish I remembered better, but space was one area teachers were saying, oh my God, we have to do another thing. The $2,000 that we spent on the program for 2nd grade is another one where I've heard teachers say, oh my God, we're doing too much. And one thing that high achieving districts do is they have less to do and they really focus on the important stuff. It's super hard to do. I just want to keep encouraging all of us to actually focus.
Well, have we done our employee survey yet?
It's going out on Monday, actually. Our staff perception survey?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, some people would consider it too late, but what if we added a question? Everybody wants to focus. Please name 3 things you would be a better teacher if you didn't have to do.
That could be dangerous. I think that's a very broad question. You could get things like report cards or, it's a pretty open-ended question.
It is, and all it does is really start the conversation. But I just agree with Tyler, and I agree with the people, those of you who went down south, came back and said the same thing. When we met with Steve Zweiback, we said it there, the big 3-day group that, to kick off the strategic plan, you all said it there. So it is a theme, and I'm afraid it's slipping by a little bit, the opportunity to make a little bit more of a change. Nobody else is up, go for it.
I'm wondering if all of the people that have been saying we need to focus, which it's true, it hasn't been us, it's been staff, that's not really what they meant. Because every time you ask that question, what do you want to get rid of, they never have anything, almost ever. And that's been a really universal thing that we've been asking that question. We all have been asking that question all along, and you're right. Not a single thing has been offered up as something to eliminate. And so I'm just wondering if maybe the language has been, that's not really how people were feeling. It was some other kind of feeling that has not been well expressed. That's all I'm wondering.
I think that, I guess my thought is, as we discussed earlier, cutting positions, or reducing, I know is the proper term, is really difficult. And when you have your pet projects, it's really hard. Are there any pitfalls with putting it on the survey? Is it too late to insert some crazy question like that? Even though I agree with Zoe, we'll get some crazy stuff, but it might maybe give us some ideas on, if there's a common theme, something that's easy for us to help, guide the district and say, okay, we don't want to tell you what to do, but
We've been waiting for you.
let's give you a push. Is it a bad idea?
I don't know if it's a bad idea. I mean, there are going to be some things on there like, what we hear a lot from school sites this year is we've had to do a lot of mandated trainings this year, bloodborne pathogens, sexual harassment training, mandated reporter. I mean, there's just a lot more suicide prevention training. So we'll hear that. We can't do anything about that. Those are state mandates. So I don't want to give staff the hope. I don't think it hurts to ask the question, but I just want to make sure we're not giving a false hope that we're going to be able to change some of those things, like attending IEP meetings. That would probably be on a bunch of lists.
I hear the survey's going on Monday, so this might be kind of a bummer for you, but it seems like you could ask that question, if you could get rid of, you'd use another language than get rid of, but if you could eliminate some tasks or programs, and I would say in there, please remember we cannot eliminate mandated things such as mandated trainings or IEP meetings. Yeah, something that's not mandated. That could help, that could help pare down the answers you would get.
Right.
People will still say that, but.
Unless it was a local board mandate rather than the state of California, we can control ourselves. We probably can't move the legislature too much in
Right.
California. Or if we messed up and we had everybody take an extra training a year before they were actually required to. If that was the problem, then we should definitely invest in some training for whoever runs the certificate program to make sure that we're not doubling up and making sure that people don't have to take it more than once. I know you have to take it every few years, but.
I think it'd be an interesting question.
I kind of like the idea. If it's not an awful idea, it would be great if we could do that. Anyways, that was I should have brought up this focus thing months ago, but there's next year. We'll keep working on it.
No, there's not. Once it's in the plan, it doesn't leave.
We can do it. We can do it as a team.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you for your flexibility and, yeah.
And just a note of thanks to all of the people who participated in this process. People, especially in the 2.5 days with Steve Zweiback, they really did some amazing work together to come up with our goals and our focus. And I really appreciate all of their efforts. And our writing team has been pulled out a lot to work on this. We've had a lot of teachers really heavily involved in this, and I really appreciate them. And Katie, as always, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. It is a lot of work, that's for sure. Okay, and now we just get to start right into operational systems, second interim.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
There we go. Okay, so our agenda for tonight, and I think we're going to go pretty quickly on this. I think we've spent a lot of time on the budget in December and January, and really not much has changed since then in one context. And in the larger context, I think everything has changed, but we don't know how to quantify that just yet. And I think we'll talk about later in the slides. At some point, I think we're assuming, due to the state's very healthy rainy day fund, that next year is going to be kind of status quo. I think the future is a little murkier after that. Yeah, the state economy has to be taking a hit right now. It's going to take a hit for a few months. The question becomes, how big of a bang does it come back with? And then how does that affect school finance over the subsequent years? But again, for next year, I have to believe we're going to be pretty much untouched. But I could be wrong. So, just kind of jumping in, our favorite slide, the budget cycle. Where are we in the process? We're down about 6:30, 7 o'clock at the second interim. Working our way back up. It's going to start getting really interesting now as we start quantifying everything we've talked about tonight, fine-tuning those numbers, building the budget assumptions, learning more about the state economy and our local economy in the next couple of weeks and a couple of months. So it's going to be a busy spring. What's new with second interim? The answer really is not much. And there shouldn't be, right? There shouldn't be a lot of big surprises. Again, and what we control and what we know today, not much has changed. Again, hard to know beyond that. We have incorporated the changes in the January budget proposal. Not a lot of changes there for us, a little bit of a hit to revenue, but we have we thought we had some enrollment ADA increases to offset those. That will remain to be seen.
You were expecting ADA this year, that
To-
you're not feeling less confident about?
If you'd asked me 2 weeks ago how our ADA was going to be at P2 this year, I would have said pretty good, and now we've got to get to April 3rd. So if you can keep everybody healthy for 3 more weeks. Right, we just have to get to spring break.
The only district still open, right.
Let's do it, let's be famous that way.
But in some ways, it could work to our advantage. These districts that have spring break next week, which is like most of Sonoma County, I'm wondering what they're going to be bringing back and if they're going to make it to their P2 deadline, because I think it's going to get really interesting once people start dispersing and then coming back. We get to keep everybody kind of in town and kind of in the county for a little while longer, hopefully. So we'll see.
Yep.
On the unrestricted side, I can walk you through all the different expense and revenue changes. Again, there really isn't much. Yeah, $328,000 sounds like a lot, but an $80 million budget, it's really not. But yeah, so revenue did increase due to our changes in enrollment. Our unduplicated pupil count is higher than what we thought back in December. And we were projecting our ADA to be higher than we thought back in December. Some other minor changes, MA revenues did increase. The transfer out to Fund 17 was increased to fully fund the 9% in Fund 17. On the expense side, our salary expenses have been reduced a little bit. Employee benefits have jumped up a little, kind of always a give and take on those things. The big jump is probably books and supplies, as sites have decided how they're going to spend their money, as other initiatives have come forward, that part has gone up. Services and operating expenditures has decreased, a good chunk of that. The transfers out again to get Fund 17 healthy, and the contributions from the unrestricted side of the budget to the restricted side have gone up a little bit. Special education and revenues expenditures are still volatile this time of year, so it's not a surprise to see it going up by a little bit. Looking at the unrestricted general fund, you will see that how it's gone through the cycle from adopted budget through first interim to second interim. Not a lot of swings. You do see some swings at the initial budget to first interim, but from there we've been pretty stable. So that's kind of a good thing. You see our reserve percentage at the end of 1920 is 9.13%. That's up from what we projected at first interim by almost 0.4%. Which means we have our 9% reserve and a little bit extra based on what we know today.
Today? I want
Today.
way more than 9.
Again, the budget is still a little conservative at this time. Revenues are probably estimated. If we're going to err on revenues, we're going to err a little bit low. And on expenses, we're going to err a little bit high if we're going to err. So I would expect things, again, back into our little bubble here. will improve slightly between now and the end of the year. Our bubble may get burst, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of recapping the contributions, the things we talked about, looking at some of the transfers in and out. Nothing really surprising there. I think the cafeteria fund, you're seeing a transfer out of $274,000. I think that's going to be less. Our new director takes that very personally and is working very hard to reduce that. She's on a quest to get that to zero by the end of the year, and we're all thinking, you've only been here half a year, give yourself a little bit of a break, but she doesn't want to hear that, so it will come in better than that number. Our other contributions, we've had to kick in a little bit to Title I, partly because of the federal program monitoring findings. So that's kind of jumped that up a little bit. We talked about the special ed increase slightly. Overall, not any real big surprises there. Looking at the multi-year projections, on the unrestricted side again, not a whole lot in the way of surprises. Again, information for next year and the year after is still a little fuzzier than we'd like it to be. The governor did show some reductions to the COLA that we have tried to incorporate, as well as there are some pretty significant changes coming to special ed funding, so you will see that reflected a little bit here as well. But by and large, we still have a lot of pencil sharpening to do for next year's budget. So briefly, I want to talk about what does the COLA really mean? We throw that term out around a lot, and for me, coming back in from a basic aid district to a LCFF-funded district, I had to do kind of a deep dive on this. So we actually used this slide with the district advisory committee back in January, I think, and they kind of appreciated this as well. So what does the COLA really mean? Well, this chart shows you what our per ADA funding is for this year with all the different variables from the state. You see at grades TK through 3, this year we get $10,861 per ADA. 4 through 6, we get $9,986. $10,283 at grades 7-8, and $12,227 at grades 9 through 12, or an average of $10,839. Okay, so a 1% COLA would mean, on top of all that, you increase every one of those per student fundings by 1%. Then if you look at what our ADA is projecting at, you see that additional revenue for 1% is $619,000. So if there's a 1% COLA next year, we could expect to see another $619,000 in revenue. Well, we were expecting a 3% reserve. Back in December, before the governor's budget proposal came out, all the estimates we had said 3% for 2020-21. So another $1.8 million. Well, the January budget proposal dropped that down to 2.29. So you see just that little change in the state's COLA costs us $440,000. So anyway, I just kind of want to put some real numbers to the COLA because it helps me to understand when they say a 1% COLA, okay, that's about $600,000. Okay, just to kind of help us frame it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So plugging that into the local control funding formula, what do all these different changes in COLA, along with our revisions to our enrollment, our unduplicated pupil counts, and our ADA, what does that mean for funding? You see we're coming out about $328,000 better this year than we thought. For 2020-21, even with that change in the COLA dropping, because of our enrollment and ADA projections, which will have to be revisited, we expected to see another $300,000 in revenue, and then another $350,000 in revenue in 21-22. So we'll flesh these out much more for you when we come back in May and June with what the enrollment is we're using, what the ADA is that we're using. And hopefully that COLA gets increased, but not so sure.
No, that's not going to happen, sir.
I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
The only thing that might help us is the state has to realize that districts are in financial trouble because of what's happening or what's about to happen. And maybe there's some way, either through they bring back some one-time funding, they take some of the strings off some of this new categorical money. I think the state's going to have to react somehow to this positively. They can't just fund everybody on ADA and say, okay, sorry, deal with it. That's not going to be a good answer for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm counting on things changing, but we'll see. On the multi-year projections, again, due to really conservative estimates, we are below our 9% reserve in 2021 and 21-22. This is about where we thought we'd be at first interim as well, and about where we thought we'd be when we came to you with the AB 1200s back in November to support the 3.73% salary increase. So that third year out has gotten a little worse. I think when we come back to you in May and June, it's going to be a little bit better. But again, any dollar we save now also helps all of that as well, right? So we're making smart financial decisions and not spending for the sake of spending. Not that we ever do that, but we are already starting to question everything. Does this budget indicate the need for severe budget reductions? I don't believe that it does. Certainly, we will look at that and talk about that as we proceed through the rest of this year and start building next year's budget. That's why the conversations tonight are great conversations to have. That's how we're going to have to talk about all of our money, not just the supplemental concentration money, right? But again, I think we can, through smart management, based on what we know today, we'll be okay. A couple other variables still hanging out there, that minimum wage increase that we've talked about. We will be coming back to you next month, I believe, or the month after, and talking about maybe a couple changes to this to kind of address some of the shortfall in the salary schedule. But for now, this is still the reality we're facing. And that $15 looming on January 1st of 2022 is still going to be the biggest issue. The $14 for January 1st of 21 we can manage. The $15 per hour is a different conversation. Facility needs. I'm with Superintendent Cuban that I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that maybe we're going to get a happy result before all is said and done. It'd be great if it does. And if not, we're already starting to talk about what does that mean and what do we do about it. And we'll be coming back to you next month and talking to you about that. Briefly moving on to the other funds. All the funds are still fine. Trustee Van Zandt had a question about the Capital Facilities Fund back at first interim. Why did it go up, and then why did it go up again? Well, it went up at first interim because the ending balance from the prior year ended up so much better. It's going up this time because we had not budgeted the revenue coming from RDA until we actually got it. So that's why it's jumping up here at second interim. So that's another $560,000 into our Capital Facilities Fund. I think we can put that to good use.
What's RDA?
The redevelopment agency. So there's always been a piece of property tax that comes through because of the redevelopment agencies that has gone to facilities. And now with the dissolution of the redevelopment agencies in town, there's another piece of property tax that comes to us. And so it's a couple pieces that have to be used on facilities. It can't be used for general fund purposes. And so it's a good thing for us to have. And I didn't realize this wasn't budgeted at first interim, but it was a happy surprise. We don't get many of those right now.
Yeah.
So our next steps, keep watching ADA and trying to hang on till April 3rd. Pay very close attention to Sacramento. I think we're going to hear nothing for a while, and then we're going to hear a lot of stuff. I think it's probably how it's going to play out. We'll be working on finalizing our enrollment and ADA projections. Then when we come back to you in May and June with the LCAP and the budget, we'll have what we hope are very realistic numbers. But there will be some unknown. I think the nature of all of this is unprecedented times for all of us. So it's going to be interesting building budgets and making them as realistic as we can. So, okay, with that, it's a positive certification. We're still well over our 3% in all 3 years and more. And I'm confident that we together will take whatever initiatives we have to undertake to make sure we stay positive and get that 9% back as quickly as we can. So, okay.
Trustee Nelson?
Thank you. So if we lose please pull out your crystal ball. I know it's impossible to answer, but if we lose 2 or 3 weeks of ADA and the state of California does nothing for us, what's that look like for us at the end of the year?
What if it was that big of a fall off? We would be funded based on last year's. For this year, it has an impact next year. It does. They can't let districts hang like that. They just
Okay.
It's just
It's too much.
yeah. We'd have protection for this year. We'd have to get help for next year. I mean,
Okay.
because it's too late in the year. I mean, March 15th will have come and gone. So if there were staffing changes to make, it's too late.
Right.
Right? It's just, they'd have to help, right?
Okay.
And the state has already put out some information about waivers. The other thing that we're starting to talk about from an educational point of view is waivers regarding SBAC testing, for example, which is coming up soon. When Santa Rosa City Schools had to close for 3 weeks, they had a waiver.
He didn't take them at all?
I don't believe they took them. And then the other thing is chronic absenteeism on the dashboard. That's going to be a problem. So I'm starting to ask our lawmakers about that. What relief there's going to be for indicators like that. Because our chronic absenteeism rate will be astronomical.
Sure.
It's already high.
Yeah, if we were to lose 2 or 3 weeks of ADA, I think they might even go back and fund us on the ADA from last year for another year or something, some way to protect districts a little bit. There's going to have to be some creative solutions to this.
Okay. The other question that I have is, kind of revolves around Measure A. What do districts do if the community decides not to support the districts and you have a $6 million HVAC system or a roof that falls in? What kind of alternatives? I mean, I'm just looking here, and the estimate for code and maintenance and operation needs is $49.6 million to $70.9 million. I mean, what do we do if we have, as these things, I mean, what do we do?
We're going to have to be very, very strategic. We do not have enough money to fix everything, right? So you're going to have to, it's going to be a triage situation. There's some creative financing options out there. There are some other borrowings we could do. I don't want us to do that. That's not a good answer. It's not cheap. But we have to keep the schools running. We have to keep the classrooms warm and dry and cool and dry depending on the time of the year. There'll be some other things we can look at, but for the short term, very much a triage mode.
Steve, I'll just add too that because Proposition 13, which has nothing to do with the infamous Proposition 13, but there was a lot of confusion about Proposition 13 because that didn't pass also. That was geared toward continuing to fund the state school facilities program. And my understanding is the bond that was passed in 2016, that funding's all been out to districts already. And so there's going to be a shortfall at the state level too for being able to fund financial hardship projects and all of those things that the state has funded in the past. It's a problem.
It is a problem, and I don't have a great answer for you. We're going to come back to you next month to start talking about some possible solutions for the short term. And yeah, we can start looking at some other financing options, but they aren't pretty. School districts are not set up to be borrowing entities, right?
Right.
So.
Trustee Arkin?
I just want to say thank you for the positive certification. It's always nice to see that after remembering from long ago when that didn't happen. Thanks for the hard work.
Well, thank you. I'd love to take credit for it, but it really is all of you and everybody in the business department and all the departments that make that happen. I'm riding on their coattails still.
Thank everybody.
We're glad you're here, though.
Thanks. So we'll get there. But it's going to be a fun few months. So if there are things you want to look at and talk about, certainly let us know. Creative solutions. I think anything and everything is on the board now. This is not going to be business as usual for a while. It can't be. So I think it's going to be, there aren't going to be any bad ideas for a while. Some may not work, but they're not going to be bad ideas for us. So.
Good attitude. All right. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we need a motion to approve.
I move that we accept the 2019-2020 second interim budget report.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. only for us because everybody else sees that one. Okay, we were having a Brown Act discussion here. Sorry, I saw something that was awry, but it's right on the website, and that is our official Brown Act posting of the agenda. This is a cheat sheet here, so it just doesn't have a couple words. All right, E2, first reading, revised board bylaw and new exhibits, 9381 closed session.
I move approval of this revised board bylaw.
It's only the first reading.
I don't, and I don't do anything.
We don't
All
want
right.
your motion.
Never mind.
We don't want your
Take it back.
stinking
Any
motion.
feedback?
But this was an unusual thing, this is new. Why are they doing this?
This is a revision, actually, and it would have come with all of the other revisions that we had in the past group.
Right.
But there were some odd recommendations from
Oh, that you wanted to
CSBA that
run
I
by
wanted to
county
run by
council.
legal counsel.
That's right.
And so legal counsel reviewed it and gave us feedback on these. And that's why they're just a little delayed past the other batch.
Okay. So did anybody have any questions about E2 or E3? Okay, hearing none, that constitutes our first reading, and that will be on consent next time. E4, resolution number 16.
This resolution is the elimination and reduction of some classified positions. It's a reduction in a child care assistant SH and elimination of paraprofessional SDs. This has already been negotiated with the classified union.
I move that we approve resolution number 16.
I'll second that.
Wonderful. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Resolution number 17.
This is a reduction of particular kinds of services. This is certificated staff. It's a reduction of 3 mild, moderate special ed teachers due to the tiers transfer from UUSD to MCOE. The reduction of the Gate Mesa teacher on special assignment, student success coordinator at the adult school, and social studies position.
I move approval of resolution number 17.
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Ms. Glenser. Now resolution number 18.
This is our tiebreaker language for those positions where people may potentially bump another person. This is language that will be used to determine those that have the same hire date, how to give them a score to determine who is the lowest that would be possibly bumped. I do want to say we do not anticipate many bumps. We are hoping for none, but may have a few.
My only question is, why wasn't this already on the books?
It's done every time you
has to
change
be
it. It does
done
every
fresh
time. Yeah.
Oh,
It doesn't change a lot, but it has changed a little bit since the last time we did it, which has been several years, actually.
Oh. Why, how is it different? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Yeah, the last one said bilingual skills, and it was separate from the B-clad, so they're very minor changes.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion for resolution number 18?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that takes care of our operational systems. Parents and Community Partnership School Board Association Delegate for Subregion 1B.
Yes, we would like to recommend to the board, there's one vacancy for a delegate to CSBA, and our region's comprised of Lake County and Mendocino County school boards. There were no nominations, and so we can vote, the board can vote to write in a candidate to fill this seat, and we'd like to, Trustee Nelson expressed an interest at the last board meeting, and so we'd like to recommend that he be written in.
Yes. Well, I think this is going to turn out to be quite a fight here at 9:30 at night. I think there's going to be multiple people interested.
All the meetings may be canceled at the rate we're going at now.
Well, they
but-
might be, they might be.
I move that we, how does this work? Do we vote individually or do we vote as a board?
No,
I don't know how it
as a
works.
board.
I move that we nominate trustee Nelson to serve as the delegate.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. I would like to see, entertain any other nominations. Okay, then, hearing none, all those in favor of trustee Nelson being our write-in candidate?
Aye. Thank you, trustee Nelson.
Any opposed? No opposed.
I don't know if it's appropriate, but I
It's
abstained from that
unanimous.
vote, just in case.
I totally appreciate it, trustee Nelson, thank you. It's something we've been like
Unanimous. I do,
wanting to happen for 9 years and no one but you is
I think some
step forward.
representation for this group that supports us, and we support them, is important.
You'll be awesome.
I look forward to it.
Good job.
And perhaps staff could see if CSBA does not reimburse you for your gas, perhaps the district could.
I would not argue against that, but either way, I will be doing it.
Thank you. Superintendent, do you have any report?
Yes, I just wanted to update the board on what we've been up to. I'm sorry, I'm chuckling, because all we have been really doing lately is dealing with COVID-19.
That's it, baby.
So I wanted to update people who are watching on what we're doing and the board as well. So first of all, I wanted to thank the County of Mendocino for the excellent communication that is happening with us. I really appreciate it. It is a very dynamic, ever-changing situation. Yesterday, Dr. Doohan was at a workshop for school leaders, and at that time, there were no restrictions on large gatherings, and by the morning, there were restrictions on large gatherings. So anyway, we really appreciate the excellent communication and direct communication on this ever-changing situation that we have. So I've also really appreciated my colleagues across the state for different documents that they're sending to me that are given to them from either their county offices or that they're creating, so we can not have to reinvent the wheel on everything. So I just appreciate all the sharing that's going on right now, both within our county and statewide, because this is all very new to all of us. But where we are right now, and we will be sending out another staff communication tomorrow based on the press conference that happened this afternoon, and also a parent communication tomorrow to update our parents on things. We have canceled all large gatherings that would yield over 250 participants. I know sometimes that we have open house season right now, so all of our open houses that will be canceled this month. And then we'll assess to see if we can reschedule them. We don't know yet. So we are working on all of that right now. We had a wrestling tournament at Eagle Peak on Saturday. That's been canceled. And so we're really, and then beyond the 250, we're looking at every other type of activity that has under 250 people expected, to see if at that activity we can make sure that people are 6 feet apart. So we've got, for example, our students have been really working hard in the drama and choir department, the theater on Mamma Mia. That show is coming up soon, and so I know at the college they have some shows coming up, and they're limiting the number of tickets that they are selling at the college so that people can be 6 feet apart in their seating. So we're assessing everything in our district right now, and I know you heard our student advisor talk about mock trial. All those things are very disappointing to students, and but we are in the situation that we were in. So we're looking at that. We also spent some time exploring what it would look like if we were able to offer students independent study if we had to close. And so we've been advised by the state that when schools are closed, you can't offer short-term independent study that is required. So, but you can still offer supplemental instruction. And so we are going to be doing that. We have done a survey of all of our employees and all of our teaching staff and all of our secondary students about internet access. And thanks to our amazing technology department, we're also going to map that out to see, are there any clusters of areas where students don't have technology, and is there a solution we can develop to that? And so we're gearing up to, luckily our students, most of our teachers use Google Classroom already, and most of our kids know how to use Google Classroom in grades 6 through 12. And so we're gearing up to be able to deliver supplemental instruction that way. Students who don't have internet access and our students in grades TK through 5, we will have packets. Jenny Bailey, our teacher on special assignment in the curriculum department, has developed packets. They're really skills-based packets for teachers to use in case they don't want to develop their own. So we are really working on that possibility. I was really happy to hear the student advisor talk today about how the teachers were talking in class today at the high school about that possibility. I know in my own case with my high schooler, about a week ago, a couple of her teachers talked about how they will still be having instruction even if we're closed. You know, we've got all sorts of assessments coming up, both the state testing, but then we've got AP testing and just everything. So it's super disappointing for kids, but we have such an amazing staff. I always feel like you can tell a lot about an organization in terms of how they respond in a crisis. And we have dealt with so many crises here in the last 3 years. Fire, power shutdowns, smoke, now we've got coronavirus, and our staff and community really rise up and help. You know, we really try hard to keep things calm for kids. It's important. We know we're really important to our community. When we close, it has a huge ripple effect throughout our community. We have healthcare workers who have kids in our schools, and it's important for us to stay open if we can. So I do want to reiterate what President Mulgard said. We have 0 confirmed cases in Mendocino County. So we've been promoting great hand washing and not touching your face and all of those first level skills. So we need to keep that up. But that's everything that we're planning for right now. And again, it's a very dynamic situation. Tomorrow it could look totally different. But we are gearing up for a worst case scenario and school closure.
But I'll just reiterate again, right now, the schools are open.
Correct.
And okay.
We love it. We're so glad that we're in session and we're, you know.
Taking it day by day.
We are.
Okay.
There's no plan like, oh, we're secretly going to tell people on Monday to close.
Right.
That's not how the public health officer is coming at it at all.
No.
She's taking it day by day.
And we appreciate that too. We want to stay open. We only have 180 school days in a school year. We've already lost 3 due to power shutdowns.
Okay, that was this year.
And we don't want to close more, and that's why it's really important to be able to offer supplemental instruction to our students while they're sitting at home, so they have something to do. In reading some of the news reports out of Elk Grove, it was a complaint of parents that, you know, the kids were home and they didn't provide supplemental instruction. So we're excited to be able to offer that. So our kiddos don't sit around and
Just play video
do
games.
nothing. Just play video games, you're right.
Yeah.
Or FaceTime each other the
That-
entire
Which is
day.
actually
They
better.
can do it over
Yeah, have
homework
them do
now.
that.
They can FaceTime over homework. So
Right.
those are our plans, and I'm, again, super grateful to our tech department, to our district office team. They're super amazing, and our teachers, and to Doug, and to everybody for working together to get information out in a timely way and to plan for how we can continue to support kids and families even if we're closed. We're also coming up with a plan for how to feed our kids still, so.
In this day and age, it's difficult for me to believe that some kids do not have access to internet, but it is possible. Could the district do some research for, to somehow be prepared to help out those students that, It is, I understand there's a program or some internet through Comcast for what, $14 something, $15 a month? That's
So-
not very expensive, so, but it may be that not everyone knows about that. The thing is that some students may live in an area where there's no internet service, so that could be the challenge. So it'd be nice if the district could actually find out, do some survey, okay, who doesn't have internet? What could we do for those students, for situations like this?
And we are doing that right now with kids in grades 6 through 12. So we will know exactly who does and who does not. And we're looking at, are there clusters of places? Because I heard a superintendent speak once about how in their district, they discovered there was one area of town where a lot of kids didn't have internet, and they parked a bus with an internet, a wireless device on the bus in front of this particular area. So anyway, we're going to get really creative about that. And, in the past, we've asked parents about if they had internet at home through our parent survey, but we only have about a 40% response rate. So we asked every student yesterday and today that attends in grades 6 through 12. So we'll have a good idea of those kids. And then after that, when this is all over, we can think about elementary kids and maybe figuring out how to get them service.
You may have gone through all these options already, so this may be a crazy idea, but I did want to just know if it was on the table. My sister works for Cal State Hayward, Cal State East Bay, and she said although they sent kids home and are no longer having classes in person, the campus is still open because it's about like clusters of people, and it wasn't that you weren't welcome on campus. And it was an interesting thought to me. It wasn't exactly that everything was shut down the way we did like a power shut off, but I'm just wondering if you had thought of having the library open for kids who signed up ahead of time for a couple hours a day for only 20 kids or whatever, to address some of those kids who might have real needs to not be at home for various reasons, including maybe internet access. It's probably not enough time to put that into place, but it was just something I thought of.
I think I'm hopeful with my rose-colored glasses that maybe we'll have another week.
To plan things like that, yeah.
Yes.
Right, it seemed like something that would take some thought, but we're thinking about 6 feet apart.
Right.
But because I agree with Trustee Diaz, I don't think there's very many children who don't have internet access, but it would be nice to try to accommodate them for a couple hours a day if possible.
And the other thing we're doing is making sure if they don't, that we have hard copies of materials for them.
Well, and even if because the computer room at the library at the high school, for example, you could just spread it out all over the whole library and that'd be fine.
I think about our foster and homeless, not foster kids so much, but homeless youth who could maybe even just use a couple hours a day of time in a safe, secure environment, since the facilities themselves are not impacted. I mean, before we've had, the facilities were not safe. It's a different environment now.
And the doctor says that the bug only lives for a couple hours. So it's not like, we have to go in and do some huge cleaning every single time. I mean, it's dead by the time you get back to school in the morning. All right, it's a free-for-all. Board member reports to add to the knowledge of the board. We will take volunteers. Should I volunteer someone?
What was going on?
This is your opportunity to report to the rest of us, to add to our knowledge.
Oh, I have no knowledge.
You have no knowledge
No,
to share?
no knowledge to add, I don't.
You know what? There doesn't look like there's much knowledge on this dais tonight. How unfortunate.
It's kind of late.
How unfortunate. It is a little embarrassing. It's a very late meeting. Okay. All right. Well, then, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Why don't we take, first we're doing expulsions. Is there a motion to suspend the expulsion of student AA 0312-2020?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I abstain because I was not present for the discussion. Okay, that's our only expulsion, thank goodness, so much better than a couple years ago.
Yeah, really is.
Let's pull a number H7. Is there a motion to approve H7 Peaceful Warrior Project?
I so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain?
Trustee Argan abstains. H22,
It's 20, I think.
is there even an H22? No, there's not. Let's do H20. Approval of expenditure plan for excess supplemental and concentration grant funds.
I so move.
I actually,
Okay, you can do it that way. Is there a second? Just second it for purposes of discussion, if you don't mind. Second, all right, Fernandez seconds. All right, discussion.
I'm sorry to bring this up without a lot of preamble, but I just noticed it. We usually don't, I felt like this was not an item we normally put on the consent calendar, so it just caught my eye. And I do question, it concerns me when we set aside large funds of money that are left over the end of the year without me understanding how it fits into the big picture and if it really is the highest priority for those funds. So I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I just did, again, catch my eye of $407,000 for technology and other instructional materials without a lot of clarity on how and why that is the highest use of those funds, given that we have facilities needs and all kinds of things that we could use one-time funds on. So I don't want to hold this up if there's some reason it needs to be done quickly. I know you're working on your couple different options for the technology plan. Trustee Nelson noted earlier that there's $320,000 set aside for the next 3 years for these technologies. It's just a lot of money to do without a lot of conversation. So I would defer to the superintendent to, if you have anything to share. I know.
No, I would just say that, and I can't remember if we put this on the consent in the past, but.
Maybe we have.
We do every year bring to the board just some general ideas on, that fits within our plan, the goals of the plan. I mean, these items fit within the goals of our plan. And that's why we bring it in this way, because it just continues to support the goals and the actions in the plan. And it gives staff a little bit of flexibility at the end of the year to be able to spend money by the date it's supposed to be spent. I think the PO cutoff date is April something soon, so that's why we want to get some authorization, and we do have, I'm super bummed we have to spend more technology money in this way because of the operating systems, but I don't think we have a choice. And it is in line with the goals of our plan this year.
Okay,
Would you like to see perhaps an update of what the plan specifics are at our next meeting?
I
Or
guess
in
if you have to
TGIF?
do the PO by the time our next meeting is, I guess I'd maybe just like to see how you actually did spend it, because it's just saying technology and other instructional materials. It's very not detailed. So, and I understand if you want the authority now in order to buy whatever you're going to buy, but, it's a
Sure.
large chunk of money, and I wouldn't mind seeing how it was spent.
Of course.
Will the people who are most concerned about spending, almost $500,000 like to come back and see anything else? Or do you want something in a TGIF that you can call the superintendent if you need clarification or anything like that?
I understand about the SBAC. I mean, if we don't have,
Okay.
we don't have the operating system, we don't have it. I mean, the state's got us over a barrel. What are we
Yeah.
gonna do?
Yeah.
Now, is all of the money going for technology because it says another?
Just says, and other.
Katie's shaking her head, yes.
Okay. Well, I don't think there's anything we can do about it.
Trustee Fernandez?
I agree. I think we are stuck, but I'm just wondering in the future if this would maybe not belong on consent when it's a big chunk of money that we're going to be spending, and just so that we all make sure we have seen it and know where it's going, rather than I have to admit, when I looked at this agenda, I didn't actually see this on there. I think I got all the way to H19 and then I didn't see this one, which is on me. But if it's not on the consent, I'd
Then
pay
you
much
pay more
closer
attention,
attention.
right?
And it would be nice for big chunks of money to not maybe be on consent.
Well, I wonder who the bozo chair was who went to agenda planning and didn't say, this is a $400,000 item, please pull it off of.
Well,
consent."
I was at agenda planning too. and
I'll just
so-
say, nobody was a bozo. This came after agenda planning.
That's what I
I feel bad.
I would have noticed. And
That makes me
I
feel
think,
a little bit
I think
better.
I also just want to,
I was a bozo because I didn't read it on the agenda.
I do want to just say, as a board, if there's $400,000 left over, it means that we were underspent in categories that we thought we were going to spend, right? I mean, that's what it means. So we over budgeted $400,000, and I,
Unless the new Steve's printing money.
It's not usually an over budget. Well, it is an over budget because we don't spend it, but what happens is we budget for the maximum amount for teacher supplemental pay for different, different duties that they do. And it doesn't always come out that way. I mean, that's a big bulk of it.
was all of it was from that?
No, not all of it. There's some actions that.
There are some actions that we haven't got as far along on as we thought. Like there
So-
was a large professional development amount. And really, this year, this amount of 407
Is
is
lower.
less
I know.
than what we've normally had.
Which is why I note it, because
Yeah.
it is usually a large chunk of money. But
So
I mean,
we're
what
getting better at estimating our costs, I think.
But as we need to get careful about money, we need to be really conscious of, are we over budgeting? And I know that's the safe thing to do, but it also leaves chunks of money at the end of the year that we spend quickly without a great deal of thought. So
In defense,
overall, I would maybe like to think about this a little bit differently, like almost maybe in the beginning of the year, make a plan of what we're going to do, like with the budget process. Like leftover money we're saying right now is going to go into this, like as part of the budgeting process that we do. But it's not, nothing we need to make a big deal about now, but for the future, I would want to consider how we do that.
Or maybe have a pending list of, here's the things we want to consider.
I wouldn't mind pre-approving in that way, like we already know what, if there's budget savings, these are the things that are the priority for us.
It'd be nice not to make staff come back,
I don't think we did.
I don't think we knew about this
We
until
did
like
not.
November.
That was the
So-
hard part.
But as you pointed out, every single year, we're in the same situation.
but it's a budget, and we're required by law not to be in the negative, so we can certify our interim budget.
You're so good.
And so it is an $80 million budget. I would propose that being $400,000 in the, not the red and the black is actually a good thing.
No, right, but it's
So I don't
400,000 of just supplemental
I
concentration.
don't think the staff is trying to hide money, which is what it sounds
Oh,
like.
no, that's not at all.
Okay.
No.
But I would say, it is a budget. Budgets are ideas. We put money out that we think things are gonna cost. We've done this.
Maybe I'm not being clear. I don't think anyone's trying to hide money. I think the budget process is honestly done. But you are aspirational when you do a budget. You have things that you want to happen, and sometimes they don't happen for all kinds of good reasons. And the pattern has been that we've always had leftover money for supplemental concentration grant, always. And you're right, this is less than we've had in the past, and I just want us to be really thoughtful about what we do with that extra money. And I'm not opposed to this, but I just think that there's room to be really thoughtful about it.
We hear you, we agree. Anything else on that? Okay, in which case I will.
Can I say just
Oh,
one thing?
of course.
In this particular case, it's fortunate that it happened, so that we don't have to cut from anywhere else at this point.
Absolutely.
Right.
So sometimes that happens.
Yeah,
So we should
sometimes
be
the luck's with you.
grateful that they work very hard to do the best they can, and that we're not here, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness.
Right.
So, I hear what you're saying, Megan. I think they try very hard to be very careful, but this time, we sort of lucked out.
Yeah.
And we've been looking out for a while, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, trustee Arkin. Now that we've discussed 20, is there a motion to approve it? No,
It's
we
already
already
been.
made the motion, we already had the second. That was our discussion, okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we will now entertain a motion for the balance of the consent calendar, not covering H7 and H20 that we already have voted upon.
I move that we approve the rest of the consent calendar.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the rest of the consent calendar passes. Are there any agenda items that people would like to make sure that are on the next agenda or the one after that? Did we talk about something that we wanted to come back? Anybody?
Well, I feel like I keep talking about it.
Pardon?
We'll have facilities on the next one. We'll also have the Personnel Commission report on classified hiring that the board requested.
Excellent.
And I think, I don't know whether we said this would be in board or in just a board communication, but the final plan you settle on around Chromebooks, was that going to be? Chromebooks and
ins-
technology.
and
You're working at a
instructional
couple different.
materials adoptions.
Yeah.
And we'll have real estate on the next one?
We were hoping to have a special board meeting to
Oh,
discuss
that's right.
real estate.
And has that been set?
We're looking at April 1st, and there was a conflict with Eagle Peak's open house, but we will no longer have Eagle Peak's open house.
Ooh, maybe we can set up a
So
nice big
if we're 6
diet.
feet apart, I
Yeah.
think we could have that.
Yeah, a few of us up here, a few of us over there. Are you available on that day, Ms. Van Sant, since you had not responded to
I
Ms. Ornellis's query?
think so.
Okay.
Don't wait for me.
Yes, but, I mean, it's a pretty important one. You want to be part of it. Talking about stuff. Property.
Please schedule it without me. I mean, I'm sure I can make it.
You don't know the name?
I regretfully do not bring my absolute master calendar with me everywhere, so I can't commit to something till I look at several master calendars. Sorry.
If you have more than one calendar, it's like not having a calendar at all.
I have an excellent calendar system, it's just not mobile.
Okay. Well, glad we worked that out. Would you like to give us a date so that we can all just go home?
Oh, when's the agenda plan?
Okay, so our next board meeting is on
The 9th?
April 16th. That's a
Oh, I thought it was the 9th.
because the week prior is spring break.
Oh,
So I'm trying to decide when.
didn't know that.
Are we gonna have agenda planning April 1st, or do you wanna, the week of spring break, so.
Yeah, we should do it the week before spring break. Aren't you guys so excited? You have to do your board reports right away.
So. Maybe we need to do it on Thursday, April 2nd.
Yeah.
Because that's supposed to be at noon.
I will volunteer for that one.
I volunteer also, I haven't done it. in a while.
Notice that actually.
Does 12:30 work, Deb?
It should.
Good.
Okay, then we're at Thursday at 12:30 with myself and
12:30.
12:30. And Tyler Nelson, and who was the other one? B? Can you do it? Carolyn. Wonderful.
All right, and that was April 7th.
Wonderful.
And our board meeting is on the 16th.
And the first is a special.
And the 1st.
Special
Okay.
board meeting on April 1st at 6 PM is what I'm told. Oh, the first is at 6? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was at
Yes,
6. I
it's at
remember
6.
that.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me use that.
Also, on the April 16th agenda, we definitely will not have the, you know how we always post the agenda extra early beyond the 72 hours? We definitely will not have it posted by that Friday because it's spring break. We'll get it posted within the 72 hours, but there may be a few reports that get attached by Tuesday or Wednesday, just so you know. So our people can have a rest. They might not be having a long rest.
They might have a long rest. We don't
have lots
know.
of time to do our board
It'll be
reports.
so lovely, it'll be long.
Thank you very much, everyone.